Are we actually? Is that true? Or is it lying to us?
It could be lying to us. Give me just a second. That did happen to me before that it says upcoming for you. One second. It could be a delay, perhaps. It's upcoming for you anyway. If it doesn't, what I did last time is I just turned it on and off and it worked. Because it did happen to me before that I went live and it wasn't showing anything. I'm live on my side anyway.
Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and, oh no, don't go to my profile, darn it. Back, different
Oh, no,
profile.
now I'm live on your side as well. Okay, so they're both
Oh,
live.
good. Brilliant. So for some reason, it had to send the signal back to the US and then back here again, I guess.
I suppose that does make sense. It does not half the time. I'm just going to check if I'm getting paid. Just give us a second. Sometimes
Oh yeah, it turns that off
Restream, it turns off.
sometimes. Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
It
You're not
does that
wrong.
like all the time. Just give us a second, guys.
Oh, Kevin, good for you getting threatened by management at work today. Good job, man. You're doing right when you piss off the man.
Oh,
Tea with Tash, welcome back. It's so lovely to see you again. It's been so long.
Hey guys. Jesus. Yeah, I had to walk out of a job. What was it? 2 years ago in Japan, and twice I had to walk out 2 jobs around here because of people pushing boundaries. Well, bosses and stuff.
Thank you for that note, Susan. You might notice I'm not wearing weird earmuffs today because my headset decided it was hungry, and so I'm headset free today. So we're relying only on native sound technology from my phone. So we'll see how this goes. Just let us know if our volumes are even. So like Philip isn't significantly quieter or louder than I am, for instance.
Yeah. What songs are you listening to? What medieval songs are you listening to? I listen to medieval songs as well.
Tosh is on my Discord. You can actually, if you go to the medieval music section on my Discord, you can see the pieces that they've been playing and recording. Because she's been recording and posting there. So yeah, she's been playing some 15th century dance tunes appropriate for today's topic.
Nice. And let me see. Yeah, I love playing medieval songs as well. Good crack. What I do as well is I put on songs as well from movies, like the Tudor TV show and Braveheart the movie. I took that on as well half the time.
Braveheart, modern folk music at its finest.
Volume's good. Well, that's good anyway.
Yet another example of how Braveheart is not a medieval movie.
What? So is. Do you not see how it opens up?
Oh yeah, totally. I feel the medieval rather than oppressive 19th century Victorian poverty. That opening scene.
Settings. I'll just check my settings there because that volume thing can be a bloody nightmare at times. Show advanced options. Let me check this one actually, see if this one works. Testing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, testing. How's that?
It sounded good on my side to start with, and it still sounds good. So I didn't notice anything different.
Nice. Well, I'll just leave it like that and see if it tunes itself into the same audio as Rachel, because they're just saying your one's slightly higher than my one, but they can still hear me perfectly fine. It's just slightly off.
Well, you should be able to control that not under advanced settings if you go to the little people symbol. You should appear there with me, and you should be able to. Oh, maybe not. I thought maybe you could actually do something. No, you can't.
Oh, wait, I found the button that guests can control all presentations. Nice, I just clicked it. I don't know what you can see now. I don't know what changed on your side. I just found it. We were looking for that button the other day. I don't know. It said to give you more options. I don't know what's going on. Oh, that's good. At least the audio is fixed now. What do you play, Philip? I don't play anything. I used to play the tin whistle when I was in school. And then I used to do other bits and bobs as well, but I don't play any.
Wow.
Compared to my wife, on the other hand, Jesus, she has the musical ear. My musical ear, non-existent. It does not work.
But
My wa-
you know,
my
I don't know if it could be more stereotypical for an Asian to play an instrument or three
mm,
or four. I mean, goodness, it seems to be that it's almost a requirement now to be a citizen in an Eastern Asian country that you have to
mm,
play at least, you know, two instruments.
yeah,
Western instruments, of course, most of my Korean friends couldn't play a traditional Korean instrument to save their lives, but they can play
yeah,
piano.
yeah, yeah. Could literally bitch about that all day, but anyway, no, my wife is quite good. She can literally pick up any musical instrument and just work away. I remember when we used to go to pubs in Ireland, and you know how a lot of pubs in Ireland they just suddenly take out a guitar or something and just start, playing music. And
Right.
my wife would always get involved. What does Yuki play? Her main instrument. She loves the flute. She always has a flute on her. But her favorite is actually a piano. She loves pianos. Really, really is a huge fan of pianos. She's dying to get a hold of a piano for a while because we've been to a few places already. Anytime there's a hotel or something that has a piano, Yuki's just straight away. "Do, do, 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 do." But she
Well,
always has her flute on her.
a lot of airports now in Asia have public pianos in various parts of the terminal, and they encourage people to just sit and play. Does she ever do that when you're traveling?
Yeah, she does that. That's Yuki.
Nice.
Even in see some, I don't think we've actually gotten into trouble for this, but see when we go into historical places, same thing with the piano. Yuki's the first one on it. Do, 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 do.
There's a in Florence in the Palazzo Vecchio. There's a grand piano on the ground floor. So
Mm,
when we take that trip to Florence, we've been talking about for over a year now. We definitely
yeah.
need to get Yuki on that piano.
Oh, 100%. Like that'd be so good. Mhm. Oh, harp in Ireland would be quite popular, all right, back in the early medieval period. There is sources from the 15th century as well that talks
Yeah.
about a piano, how they had songs for sadness, songs for happiness, and even songs for going to bed with. Because what was it called? It was one of the ladies that was around the Mead area. She was quite wealthy, and she would have guests over from Europe, and people would talk about the fact that the harpists during these feasts and stuff and assemblies would be able to play all sorts of songs and stuff
Well,
that they
it's
had.
actually a myth that the harp was only played in Ireland in that era. The harp was
Mm.
popular everywhere in
Oh
Europe
yeah,
in the 15th century. It's not just an
mm,
Irish instrument.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and actually playing the harp to me is the lap harp anyway
mm,
is the quintessential chamber music instrument for medieval dance because it's got a
mm,
really soft sound. And
yeah,
so when you read these chronicles about 15th century courtiers retreating to the lords or the ladies' chambers for basically a late night revel, like I can totally imagine a harpist just sitting there next to the fire
mm,
while these courtiers dance in this seductive, flirtatious manner with this really seductive, flirtatious harp music accompanying them.
mm. For sure. Like I played. How do you pronounce that one? Boatswain pipe. I'm assuming that's a medieval instrument for sure. Like, is it
I
not?
don't know about that. Something with the name like boatswain, it would makes me think more 18th century. I actually don't know what it is, but yeah, with a name like boatswain, it sounds more 17th or 18th century.
Roger, Roger, Roger. I tell my kids they can learn the violin, CO, flute, harp, and bagpipes. God, you'd want to have a big open space for the bagpipes for sure. Where I
Well,
live, sorry.
well, you know that in mainland Europe now, like Germany and the Netherlands and France, like the bagpipe is an instrument you can learn at school.
Oh, nice.
And it's not those horrible Highland pipes. It's actual like
No, it's
nice
terrible.
pipes that you could
Yeah.
dance to or want
Hmm.
to listen to, not ones that make you want to run from them.
No, bagpipes are
So
great. I love the good old warring bagpipes. Get one on the go. What was
not
it called?
not 19th century pipes, like closer to actual medieval pipes.
Mm-mm. What was it
Okay,
called?
well,
Oh
I
yeah.
think we're oh wait, is harp playing the Netflix and chill of the medieval times? Yes.
Nice.
Harp Harp playing with dancing is definitely 15th century flicks and chill.
Oh, I 100% like when you think about it. Here on the island, all right, what they would, because I live where all the businessmen live and stuff, because my wife is an accountant. And what they do, there's an island, and during the week, obviously, because the island has special rules in Japan where it's got lower tax for doing business and stuff. So all the businesses are out on the island. And so during the day like this, my wife and all the other businessmen are off on the island making money, blah, blah, blah. But during the weekend, those same families would send their kids over to the island to go play their musical instruments. So during the weekend, if you go and walking around the parks and stuff on that island on the weekends, it's just full of children playing with their all different kinds of musical instruments and stuff, making as much noise as possible in groups. It's brilliant.
Yeah, there's an underpass on the river here where a bunch of people, community people have just set up an outdoor musical instrument practice area because of course, you know, if you're in apartment buildings, you don't want to be practicing your saxophone in the apartment.
Yeah.
So like if you take a river walk and during the day, you can hear random out of tune sound floating across the river from all these different people practicing different instruments at the same time. So same idea, except these aren't children. They're like 60-plus-year-old men usually.
Still nice though. Nice to get out
No,
there.
I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a fantastic culture. And that they've figured out ways to deal with apartment living that allows them to do the thing they love, i.e. learn a loud, obnoxious instrument, while not completely engendering the hatred of their fellow apartment neighbors. So I think it's great.
I don't know. It's funny because there's a proper hatred towards people making noise. I suppose because we're in Japan, like, and there's just a sheer hatred in many areas about people making noise, and it's like, well, people need to make noise and live. You know, people need to, learn musical instruments. They need to go out and play. They need to run around. Like, life is full of sounds.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Oh, so Philip, you remember I was whinging about or complaining about having my lacing needle lost.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, and I was like looking everywhere for it. I have gremlins. I definitely have gremlins because I just found it right here on the ironing board in front of me, under a piece of fabric under which I definitely looked. This apartment is haunted. Screw you, ghosts.
Yeah, the old angels rubbing things again.
Tea with Tash, me playing my recorder and flute every day on my apartment. Well, in Germany, so I lived in Germany for 12 years, some of you may or may not know, and they have legislated quiet hours, like statutorily required quiet hours in various German towns. It's 1 to 3 p.m. and then like 8:30 or 9 p.m. until 6 a.m. or something, like, or 7 a.m. And if you violate those quiet hours, they will call the police on you and you will come and get a fine.
Yeah.
They're no joke about that.
Yeah, I don't mind quiet hours and stuff, like especially between 9 p.m. all the way up to I'd say about 4 a.m. because I need to start waking up and doing stuff about 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning. But yeah, like definitely. But the park is a good idea. I know other people as well in the comment section are saying about going down to parks and stuff. I think that's a wonderful idea. Like, I think every city should definitely make sure 100% that they have a park on the go so people can make loud noises and stuff.
Yep. And it's in Korea, it's basically it's accepted that all the parks are places you can go and be obnoxious.
Yeah. It's definitely here, like,
obnoxious within reason, not,
That's what they're there for.
Christina says, frickin' ghost man every time. Yeah. So time to sage or maybe some milk and honey. Seriously. Yeah.
No, energies.
Susan says it's not am I sure it's not the feline overlords? Yeah, they're passed out in my bedroom because they spent the wee hours of the morning parkouring over my body. So they're passed out now. This is not them. Oh my goodness. Well, everyone, we are here today to launch an exciting project
Mm.
that Philip and I are going to be undertaking together. And he thinks he's not going to be doing any of the work, but he's going to be doing some of the work anyway. On the research side, he's going to be doing helping me with some of the work. So we're here to talk about Anglo-Irish fashions in the 15th century. And this is a very interesting subject because, as with all of Irish history, Philip, there's not a clearly defined line, really, of
Yeah.
this is the Irish outfit in the 15th century, and this is the Anglo-Irish outfit, and this is the English outfit on Ireland in the 15th century. Like, these lines are just not as clearly defined as people would really like to believe they are.
And it gets worse because I decided, I wanted to make life very, very difficult for myself and Rachel's research. And I decided to pick the peak person for this, which is Seamus MacTomod, which in English is referred to as James, the 8th Earl of Desmond. And the thing is about Seamus MacTomod is he really, really doesn't like English society. He doesn't like the English. He doesn't like the English monarchy. But he has to go to the Irish Parliament, where in the Irish Parliament, which is meant to be ran by the Yorkists, he has to play ball. And that's where he has to, dress in English clothing or civilized clothing. So there, he's Gaelic clothing isn't really acceptable. And so he's a kind of in a, thing of like, having to dress English to go to work. And at the same time, when he gets home to his wife, who is an O'Brien, Margaret O'Brien, he is Seamus MacTomod, and he is a proud, traditional Gaelic man, So yeah, 100%. Complicated character for sure. And it is definitely, the 15th century is definitely that era where they're going between that complication of European, English, civilized styles. And at the same time, you've got that, traditional Gaelic proud culture that eventually becomes, 200, 300 years later, becomes all kilt and bagpipes.
Right. I mean, the thing people have to remember is that humans are humans and we're peacocks. And we like to dress, until very recently anyway, for the most part, we love to dress prettily throughout all cultures and all civilizations. And we get bored of wearing the same thing over and over if we have the means to do better, to do differently, right? So even Ireland, with its Gaelic fashions, adopts, even in the Gaelic parts of the world, adopts continental fashions, not necessarily English, maybe inspired by English, but maybe inspired by traders they see in the port cities, because there's major ports all along the coast of Ireland from north to south. And there are merchants, vessels going to those ports, dressed in their whatever their latest and greatest in merchant fashion is. And so people see that and they're like, ooh, that hood, it's got that long dangling fabric on the back. That's pretty svelte. I want that on my hood. Thus, we see at the end of the 14th century, we see Art, what's his name? Gosh darn it. McNamara, is that his name?
Oh, Art McNamara. Yeah, sorry,
yeah,
1 second.
Art McNamara, right? Art McNamara and his men are they're depicted riding towards, towards an English army, and they've got a chainmail, they've got a mail hauberk over a padded, a long padded gambeson and accaton. But on their heads, they've got these hoods that are fitted nicely around their faces and necks with these long, stylish lyra pipes, right? That's not an Irish fashion. That's an English/continental fashion. So, even the most Irish of the Irish are adopting pieces and silhouettes and looks that are coming from the continent. Now, what's interesting is they're often adapting it in ways that make it a little more local, right? Like I can tell with my very experienced 15th century eye, I can tell, well, that's a houppelande, but that's like the Irish version of the houppelande.
Okay.
Right. So yeah. So we've, this idea that there was the thing, people want clearly cut boundaries, right? They want a picture that is, this is 15th century Irish clothing. And you're not going to find a single depiction of anyone from Ireland in the 15th century that will be all Gaelic with no influences from, it's just not going, it's not going to exist. It's not. Now, there seem to be some key accessories or styles of hair or beard or mustache that are very clearly Gaelic versus English, for instance. So, or that the Gaels, for instance, decide that they're not going to wear brays, and brays are breeches. They're basically like linen boxer shorts for men, and everyone in Europe is wearing them. But apparently, it seems that that's one of the things the the Gaelic Irish don't do. Typically, is wear brays, for instance. So, but that's not something you're going to see, right? That's not going to be visually obvious to you because they're not walking around in their, in their birthday suits. They're just not wearing an underlayer, which the English and the rest of Europe thought was pretty crucial for hygiene. But apparently, and I say apparently because the resources that we have to tell us about Irish clothing, it's like we have to compile it as a mosaic, right? We have to get little snippets from 100 different sources, from contemporary literature, from chronicles that aren't talking about clothing technically, but happen to mention clothing, from archaeological tidbits, right? We've got to compile a mosaic. So studying medieval Irish fashion is actually one of the most challenging areas and eras of medieval fashion that there is, because we don't have the abundance of clear-cut sources that we have in the rest of Europe. So yeah, that's why this project will be more challenging than other projects should be, in the sense of we want to get it as right as possible, right? We want to try to get to the truth as much as possible. So the research is ongoing, everyone. Today's presentation is not going to show you everything there is to know, because literally this morning I was just finding more shit. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I was finding more information. So this is a collaboration, a project that's going to be ongoing. So, but it's going to be something that's going to take a lot of time and effort. And so to pursue this, we're really going to need remuneration, because this is going to be almost a full-time job, honestly. Yeah. So hence we are launching a GoFundMe. So if you would like for us to support us in researching and recreating an accurate Anglo-Irish outfit from the 15th century, so that Philip no longer looks like that in our live stream. Then we have started a GoFundMe, and I don't know, is the link, I sent you the link. We can pop the link in the chat for anyone who wants to support.
Just give us a second there and actually go and dig it back up, because I was digging up the name as well. So give us a second, I'll dig that back up. Because we had it last night, we were sending it up and stuff.
Yeah. So, part of this project obviously is going to be sharing the research as we go along, and people who support us on GoFundMe are going to get access to extra resources, right? We'll be sharing to people who support will obviously, have access to more information and more of our findings, and live streams that will be, or live videos where for example, when I'm fitting Philip for these garments, we'll do a Zoom session, and all of our GoFundMe supporters can join in through the Zoom session and ask questions and watch as I stick pins in Philip in uncomfortable places. Well,
oh no. I actually have it now. Give us a second.
So Jim says, I see their clothes as mostly wool, and I believe that wool is antibacterial. So the reality is that most natural fibers are antibacterial. Jim, it's a good comment. It's a good comment.
It is a very good comment.
Yeah. But that's the thing. That's one of the reasons I hate synthetic fibers. They're not antibacterial for the most part. Wool is antibacterial, linen is antibacterial, ramie is antibacterial, hemp is antibacterial, silk is antibacterial, right? They all reject bacteria to a certain point. Now, in Ireland, we know that they were wearing linen generally against their skin and wool over top of it. We actually have proof of linen production in Ireland, and Irish linen was famous for being very fine, a very fine quality product. And Edward IV actually had in his possession an Irish smocka, an Irish smock, an Irish shirt embroidered in gold and silver. Now, We don't know what made it Irish. It could be that it was made of Irish linen, and that's what made it Irish. The shirt could have been completely fashioned in Ireland. It might have been a gift from the Earl of Desmond, for instance. You know, we don't know, but we just know that even Edward IV, King of England in this era, had an Irish smock listed in his inventory, embroidered in gold and silver. So yeah, so linen was worn against the skin. Lena, the word lena comes from the Latin word linum for linen, right? So that's how we know that this were most likely always made of linen, occasionally made of silk, but originally made of linen and wool. And we know that silk was imported heavily into Ireland from the first millennium going forward, because we have relatively a lot, you know, for the first millennium, a lot of tiny scraps, but still real scraps of silk that have survived across the medieval period, going all the way up to the 15th century in Ireland. So yeah, we know that the upper class, that the Irish nobility, for instance, had silk garments. But yeah, for certain, the average person, it was going to be linen and wool, 100%. You know,
100%, yeah.
Your bog trotting farmer is not going to be wearing a silk tunic while he's out there harvesting peat.
Yeah. I've got the weirdest bug coming up where I can send. If you look at the thing in our comment section there on Restream, you can see that's a huge link. Like, the link is really big, right? And the link is sending on my channel. Weird enough, it's sending onto my channel, but it's not sending onto your channel because there's a limit of how much you can write inside there. So I'm encountering the weirdest bug right now. So that I do apologize on Rachel's side, who can't see the link onto your channel. But if you pop over to my channel, you can definitely click onto the link, or you can pop over to GoFundMe. It's just referred to as help recreate a 15th century Irish clothing. You could definitely find it there for sure. See if there's any
Well, so it showed up in my chat. Let me see what happens.
Did it? Is it popped up?
It did.
Okay.
I don't know what it'll do, but it did pop up. Yeah, it's I can see it. Let me see. I can see it in my chat.
Okay.
Yeah, so everyone on my channel, if you want to click on the link for the GoFundMe, and just let me know if it actually brings you to, let us know if from my channel it also brings you to the GoFundMe. Shellback Bo says, when in Korea, Eastern medicine may occur. Yep, absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah. So yeah, so we are going to talk today about, we're going to show you a bunch of images of fashions that could have been worn by the Gaels, the Gaelic Irish in the 15th century, could have been worn by the Anglo-Irish, could have been worn by the English who were wandering around, right?
Yeah.
But as we go through these pictures, I'll definitely be telling you what are the differences between why that's more Irish than, say, French or English. And yeah, and we're also going to show you some images of some English kings, some English nobility, so you can see the kinds of fashions that we know the English kings were gifting to certain Irish noblemen in this era. as a way of saying, I mean, a lot of people pointed and say, well, this is Richard III trying to make this Irish earl more English. No, not necessarily. You have to understand that in this era, clothes were a luxury good, and you didn't just give people money. That was kind of crass. Instead, kings and queens all throughout Europe were known to send suits of clothing as gifts to their fellow royal peers, to lower ranking members of their court, right? And Ireland kind of counts as this weird in between place, as being under English dominion, but also not. So, Richard III sending, he sent it to our man, right?
Yeah.
Seamus, right? He sent it to Seamus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Richard III sends this amazing suit of clothes to Seamus, very expensive. And that isn't necessarily him saying, this is how I want you to dress. That's him giving him a shit ton of money, basically, in clothing form.
Mm.
So I think we need to try to pull back from the automatic knee-jerk reaction of, oh, it's the English king trying to control the poor little Irish nobleman.
Yeah.
Mm, mm.
At this point, Richard. You see, the thing is, one of the people that helped Richard III get onto the crown, become king of England at this point, was the Fitzgeralds. But you see, what's happened is there's a sort of political disaster that happened with Richard, where his followers do not like the Fitzgeralds because the Fitzgeralds are very Gaelic at this point. You see, but at the same time, Richard is supported in Ireland by the Fitzgeralds. See, like the
Right.
Fitzgeralds are holding Ireland together at this point, and they're not declaring war against the Yorkists. That's the main thing. Especially when the Yorkists still have their own rivals inside of England, they need to keep Ireland happy, and they need to keep the Fitzgeralds happy with that. Especially with the Parliament and stuff. Now, this is something I kind of want to play with Rachel. Do you think the reason why he gave him clothing, especially kind of English style clothing, was to kind of charm him into going into the Irish Parliament? Because he seems to be, from what I was reading, especially with O'Brien's literature and stuff, he seems to really not, and it's not just himself, it's also, as Mihal from Clans and Dynasties had pointed out 2 weeks ago, you also have the what's it called? Oh my god, the oh, the Brood. It's not the Brood. The Bergs. That's it. The Bergs. You also have the Bergs, who also do
Right.
not like going to the Irish Parliament. And what they do is they cross a river. The River Shannon. Is it the River Shannon? Oh yeah, they cross the River Shannon in front of the English, and they take off their clothes naked in front of the English just to tease them. And then they put on Irish clothing again. And because they're on the opposite side of the Shannon, they're just like, way, ha ha ha, and they run away. And they tell their people inside of their castle they hate Irish clothing, like speaking Irish, by the way. And you get the same kind of idea with Seamus as well, that Seamus despises this English clothing and he can't wait to get home and wear his Irish clothing again that's nice and warm and comfortable.
So English clothing would have been very warm and comfortable on this
Yeah.
era. It would have been fur lined.
Mm,
It would not have been cold. He would have
yeah.
been. So so I'd be interested in seeing the primary sources that give that impression.
Mm,
I don't. So here's the problem. A lot of historians have bias. They have natural
mm,
bias, right? And
mm,
so they
mm,
like to interpret sources they don't like. They do interpret sources through that bias. It's
mm,
not necessarily intentional.
yeah.
So that's why whenever, I've got the book, Dress History of Ireland, or Dress in Ireland. I don't remember what it's called. That seminal work on historical Irish clothing.
Mm,
But I'm looking at it mostly for the endnotes and the primary sources that are cited there, because I don't trust other people's interpretations of primary sources. So I wouldn't trust that unless I see the primary source and why
mm,
it was interpreted to be that way, right? Like, how do we know that's how he felt? Did he have a diary? Who wrote that down? When was the chronicler who indicated that writing? Was he writing in the 17th century?
mm.
Well, he's going to have been writing with a very specific, idea in mind. So I don't trust it until I see a 15th century source that says that.
Mm. I'll ask Mihal next week. And talking about sources, Susan, the reason why I started looking around there is because I actually have that source you're talking about somewhere around here. The one on the
Yeah, I have it.
Fitzgeralds.
I have it as an ebook.
Ah,
It's
yeah.
on my computer.
You
Unfortunately,
can
my laptop had a horrible accident. Is at the laptop doctor.
mm,
So
you can get
um,
that book now as an ebook. That's
it's
mad.
on internetarchive.org.
Yeah.
Margaret Dinlevy. Margaret
Yeah.
Dinlevy, is that her name?
I
Margaret
think so.
Dinlevy,
I think
right?
so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Margaret Dinlevy's work. It's on internetarchive.org.
Mm,
Also, if any of you are using internetarchive.org, please donate. It's a free platform. It's a lot of work to maintain platforms like that. So, like Wikipedia, if you use it, please donate, even if it's just $1 or $2, keep it
Susan.
going. But also,
Su-
did you
yeah.
see that Kevin actually, he says he went and donated to our GoFundMe?
Oh wait, already nice. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
awesome. Thank you, Kevin. That's fantastic. Shellbackbow says he can't access the link. Shellbackbow, I will post it. I'll make a post. I'll make a community post with the
Mm.
link, obviously. Yeah, for certain.
Um, By the
Let me.
way, I never actually, we were kind of rushing this morning because we had 1,000 things to do again this morning, like we do most mornings. And this is partly kind of why some of the GoFundMe is just going to pay for all our stuff because we're constantly trying to work to do the research in the 15th century.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to get the time and stuff. But I never actually said to Rachel which way I actually had this set. I have, and I think it was better if I put, I was talking to Ghost Hero over on Discord first to see what sources he had for Seamus, well, James Fitzgerald, the 8th Earl of Desmond. And he gave me the kind of like effigies. I'll show you the first one anyway, Rachel. And what I want you to do is just have a look over it and stuff. But
Okay.
it's interesting.
I've probably seen this effigy. Go ahead and show it to me, though.
I was thinking that as well. This is the one from us. Actually, you're perfect. Yeah, that worked perfectly. It's a pity I can't zoom in anymore. Can I do this? Actually, that's much better. Okay, and this is the one, the Franciscan Friary of Ennis in County Clare. That's the effigy. I'm assuming that is an effigy.
Yeah,
in the
it's a tomb. It could be an effigy, but it could also just be a tomb cover because it might be depicting, like, I think the kneeling, the person who's kneeling might actually be. Oh yeah, now I can see it. I have it on the big screen. Oh yeah, I've seen
Perfect.
that one. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
right, that's grand.
fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic. So that gentleman, that's his tomb. That's from his tomb.
Mm.
Is that's what he said? This is actually from Seamus O'Brien's tomb?
No, it's not Seamus O'Brien's tomb. It's just referred to, the reference is referred to as
yeah.
Franciscan Friary of Ennis.
Yeah,
County
no,
Clare.
okay, good. I thought I know where that's from because it is one of the resources, and I thought I sent you that one, but maybe I didn't. Yeah, no, that is a fantastic one because we've got a combination of figures there. Some of them are very clearly biblical, right? This is a biblical scene that you're seeing depicted here. And it could actually be the burial of Jesus, in fact, wrapped in the shroud, right? And you've got the three Marys, and you've got Joseph of Arimathea, and I'm trying to remember who else is part of that scene. Anyway, if you look at the two gentlemen on either end of that depiction, and the reason I'm looking off screen, everyone, is because I'm looking at the big screen on my side. I feel like a weather woman. If you look at those two gentlemen on either end of what I'm pretty certain is the body of Christ, they are wearing what in French is called an houppelande, what in English is called a gown. And it's spelt like 4 or 5 different ways in 15th century English. And this is the very full overgarment that it's constructed in such a way that it just falls in these beautiful round pleats, and then it's belted. And you can see the gentleman on the right, as we're looking at it, has a pouch that's hanging from his belt. And, they're dressed very elegantly, right? So this is what I would call the Irish version of this gown, because it is different from the versions we see in Burgundy, in France, in England even. And this, I think, actually dates to the end of the 15th century. And by the end of the 15th century, Europe has kind of moved on from this look, but Ireland is still clinging to it, which lines up perfectly with the Irish being both super innovative about fashion. Like if a new thing comes along and they snap it up, but then they're also saying, well, but at the same time, the old way was good too. So we're just going to do both, right? Why get rid of something? We can just add on more. And so that's what you're seeing here. And so under that, they are probably wearing what we now call a doublet, was at the time was also called a doublet, and hosen. And you can see they've got nice shoes on, nice leather shoes on. They're not barefoot here. So yeah, that is a good depiction of a Heburnized, of a Gaelicized houppelande, basically. And again, you can see that the gentlemen have nice full beards and mustaches. I mean, they're not like super bushy, but they're respectable. And that seems to be a big distinguishing feature of the Irish from the English from the 14th into the 15th century. In fact, the Statutes of Kilkenny make specific reference to telling the English that they have to shave to make sure they don't look the same as the Irish. They're only allowed 2 weeks worth of facial hair growth, and then they're expected to shave so that they don't look like the enemy, as it's called in the statutes of Kilkenny.
Yeah. And it's interesting as well, because I think this one's very, very important for us in our research, because this is this is right next door to Fitzgerald's territory, and this is his wife's territory. So his wife lived around this area and stuff, which is Margaret O'Brien. So this is where his wife, Margaret O'Brien, is from. And this is right next to Desmond Fitzgerald's territory, Seamus MacTiamad's territory. So this whole clothing and stuff definitely influenced him, from my opinion, didn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is we're nowhere near Dublin. We're nowhere near Dublin here, guys. There was a comment, but there's a child. No, that's not a child. So remember, medieval art doesn't always necessarily intend for people to be represented based on their size, but represented based on their role in the thing. And it could be that person kneeling there is actually the donor, or the person to whom this tomb belongs. Right. And so they would be depicted smaller. And you see this a lot in, what are they called? Retablos in Spanish. Jesus, how did I just switch into Spanish? Altarpieces. If you look at altarpieces from the 15th century all across Europe, you'll notice 14th century also, the donors are often depicted smaller than the religious figures who are around them. Right. So, and that's another indication to the viewer of, we've got people who are part of the tableau, and then we have the person who is a real human who lived in this era. Right. So the person kneeling, I suspect, is probably the person who either commissioned this piece or was interred, because usually these pieces aren't, unfortunately, connected to their tombs anymore. So that's what, it's not a child. I would say it's probably the donor of the piece, the person who paid for it.
Absolutely fascinating. Will I move on to the next one that Ghost Hero sent us?
I'm sorry, I was just looking at the comments. Almost sounds like a child's baptismal gown. Oh, Jim O'Neill says, the hoopalande. Yeah, so I mean, the child's baptismal gown is actually more likely derived from the smock or the linen shirt that people wore under their garments up until the 19th century. Is probably more likely where the baptismal gown comes from. But yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. What did you say, Philip?
Will I push on to Ghost Hero's the next one he sent us?
Yeah, go for it.
Go for it. Right. That one's perfect, actually. And that's the one Kilmaine in County Meath. That's the effigy there.
Yeah, so those are actually women. I'm pretty certain. I'm looking I'm waiting until it pops up on the big screen, unfortunately, because on my phone it looks like nothing.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty, if those are the ones I think they are, those are women. But they are wearing, but Irish women in the 15th century, noble women, had adopted this fashion. The women and men both wore the upalon, the gown. They had their own versions of the gown, right? And interestingly, there are tombs going up until the end of the 16th into the 17th century, Irish noble women's tombs that depict them still wearing this 15th century style garment and headdress. Now, what we don't know, I don't think necessarily that means that they were actually still wearing those in daily fashion. I think it had just become sort of the style of effigy that was just being done automatically to depict them. But I don't have evidence for that. That's just an assumption on my part. But yeah, wow, it is really just taking its sweet time to actually catch up on. Oh, it doesn't want to. That's nice. There we go. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now I see. Nope, those are not women. Okay. Yes, those are men. That's what I was hoping I'd get to see it. And they are also wearing the upalande again. Now you'll notice the gown. You'll notice that they have a bowl cut. So you see that hair, you see how they're clean shaven?
Yeah.
So that bowl cut was fashionable in the English court in the first half of the 15th century.
Okay.
It was not fashionable in the second half of the 15th century. Not just the English court. It was fashionable in France and Burgundy as well, that particular haircut. So I would say that this probably is more likely to date to the early 15th century, therefore. And could well depict people who are more connected to the English fashions than not, right?
Okay.
They're more connected to continental styles because they're clean shaven. So they're not wearing that, sexy Irish beard, and they don't have flowing curly locks, right? They've got a bowl cut and they're clean shaven. But
Okay.
you do that definitely does depict the gown from the front. So you can see how it, before we were seeing it, kind of a 2/3 profile kind of thing. Here we're seeing it in the front. And it goes just to above the ankles. And one of the reasons it's so full like that is because it's fully lined in fur. When you line a garment fully in fur, it automatically forms these nice organ-like pleats like you see there. A lot of people a lot of sewists have tried all kinds of weird methods to generate those pleats by sewing pleats and fixing them and all kinds of things. And what it comes down to is, if your garment has lining or is padded, then those pleats automatically form from the A cut, the slanting of the side seams. And so probably those are lined in fur. And you can kind of see how it's bulkier down by the ankles and kind of puffed out a little bit. That's fur trim.
It's absolutely fascinating, isn't it? But it's a good thing that you corrected that one. That's why I absolutely love having a conversation with you, because you've got other people, and I love everyone else. They're really brilliant. But Rachel, you're always the proper details in there. That's why I love bringing you onto the show and stuff, for sure. Do you want me to carry on to Ghost Heroes next example?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it. Yep.
So this is the late 15th century, early 16th century.
Ghost so that's... Yo, do you know where it's from?
This is Dublin Cathedral. So this is in Dublin Cathedral.
Yeah, someone just commented, "I'm glad you said they were men." I was like, yeah, they are. Now that I see them as not a 1 inch by 1 inch picture 4 feet away from me. Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah. So this definitely looks early 16th century to me. In terms of like 1500. And you said this is in Dublin Cathedral. This is so continental. So everything about this screams the continent to me, in terms of its style, which would make sense, right? If you're going into Dublin and you're in they were bringing in artists and artisans from other places to decorate the cathedral. It was called, I think the cathedral in Dublin was called Holy Trinity in the 15th century, but now it's called Christ Church, right? Is that correct?
No, Christchurch was always Christchurch, but it's easy to get confused. You have one that's referred to as Christchurch that's in the center of the city, and then just down the road, where they used to actually have fights. They used to both cathedrals used to fight each other. You have Patrick's Cathedral, so it's easy to get confused with the two of them. And worse still, the two of them during the medieval period used to go outside and actually fight each other, from relics to various disputes on the road, and they had different guilds and everything. It was brilliant. You get some of the best history inside there. And I think so I think Christchurch was supported by the Fitzgeralds at one point, and then Patrick's Cathedral at one point was supported by the Butlers. And you get this siege. So the Fitzgeralds go in and they siege it and all this stuff. This hasn't happened yet. We're talking about like 1472. But much later on, around 1490, the Fitzgeralds break into Dublin, they siege Dublin, they capture Dublin, and then it goes down to them literally sieging Patrick's Cathedral, and the Fitzgeralds break in there and they go down to the very last room, and they have a door, and they're sieging the Butlers. The Butlers are inside this very last room, and the Fitzgeralds have to make an agreement with the Butlers not to kill them if they agree for the Fitzgeralds to become Lord Deputy, right? The Butlers don't believe them, so they have to put a hole into the door, and the Fitzgeralds put their hand through the door, and that's where the Irish saying for "chancing my arm" comes from.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So yeah, these, we're definitely into the 16th century at this point, based on the way the women are depicted. So this is a holy scene, and as you're getting into the 16th century, it's the way people are depicted in these holy family scenes, or the Pietà in this case. are less and less like real people and more like standardized religious figures. So you can't really use anything you see here necessarily 100% to inform a depiction of what people are actually wearing. There are elements that are certainly things that people were wearing in the early 16th century, and then there are other elements that are not. So yeah, it starts getting really tricky. The trick is, if you can find a scene like this and you can find the donors depicted nearby, they will be depicted in real clothing. But unfortunately, like the Virgin Mary, for instance, she could be depicted in nun's clothing, maybe. Like this could actually be the artist, because she's supposed to be pious and chaste and all that, right?
Yeah.
According to the medieval idea of her life. And so typically they like to depict her in what would be a cloistered nun's ensemble to indicate that piety and chastity. So it can be really tricky to use images like this to inform accurate depictions of what people were wearing in daily life. I'm not saying we can't know either way until we have a bigger sampling against which to compare it, which unfortunately for Ireland we don't have a very large sampling. Thank you, Oliver Cromwell. Thank you, stupid fires in the 20s, right?
Stop.
Stupid rebellions leading to freedom or whatever.
And I wouldn't mind. It's the same cathedral you're looking at now, where the Tudors were getting relics and smashing and breaking them during the Reformation. They got St. Patrick's crozier and brought it outside, and they broke it. They snapped it in two, and that one is supposed to have been dated to the 5th century. The crozier they broke during that period. Yeah.
The Reformation was such an unholy, hellish time. It really was terrible.
I hate it so much. I read this year, actually, that during the Reformation, during that cathedral we're looking at now, that they broke that crozier just outside the gates of it for the whole public to see that this is the Reformation. It is here now. Disgusting.
Yeah, right. So Jim O'Neill, I don't know when you asked this question, but I'll clarify. Yes, this is the Pietà, right? This is Mary holding the defunct body of her son. Right. And after he's been taken down from the cross. So yeah, that's why I said it's tricky to use this as a depiction. I mean, they don't even depict crucifixion accurately. How can we possibly trust the depictions of the clothing? I mean, really.
And another thing as well, if you guys don't mind as well, could you please give us an old like there? Yeah. Myself and Rachel, we're kind of edging at that thing now of trying to break into the algorithm right now, because we're both on like 20-ish right now, like 17, 15-ish. Just give us an old like there, and it should be able to push us up to the hundreds and stuff. Sometimes we literally, the moment we jump onto the algorithm, we just go flying off. So please, if you don't mind, just give us own like, just to give the old stream an old push, if you don't mind.
Thumbs up, if you're on a mobile device, just double tap your screen and that will automatically thumbs up it. Yep.
Thank you so much for that. So anything else you'd like to add on to
that one, Rachel? If you look at the woman in the back right, the back right, there's two women actually on the far right. I'm pretty certain one of them is supposed to be Mary Magdalene because of her hair. The one in the front, rather, is supposed to be Mary Magdalene, right? The reformed prostitute, which at this point was canon, even though that's not correct. That isn't who Mary Magdalene was. Yeah. But still, that's how she tends to be depicted. And the woman behind her is wearing a gown that is very typical Tudor / Flemish style. Even in Spain, they were wearing gowns like this too. And she's wearing on her head, she's wearing this turban-like thing. And that turban-like thing was introduced into European art in this last quarter of the 15th century, because there were a large number of Romani immigrants who were fleeing the Turks, actually the Ottoman Turks, and they arrived into Europe, and their women wore this style of turban. And so all the artists associated that style of turban with Eastern fashions, with the kind of clothes that they thought people in the Middle East were wearing. And so they started dressing their religious figures whose lives are centered in the Middle East in that style of turban. So that style of turban was actually, in fact, worn, but not by fashionable European aristocrats, but rather specifically by Romani noble women or Romani
Mm,
women, whether noble or not. Right.
mm,
So that's another of these artist conventions that arose, and yet another example of how you can't trust art from the Middle Ages to tell you how people regularly dressed. Right. And
mm.
everyone wants to remake that headdress. And I'm like, okay, are you doing a depiction of a Romani woman from the 15th century or the 16th century? If you're not, then don't make it.
Ah,
Right. Yeah.
true. Okay, all set. We'll push on
Oh,
to the
thank
next
you,
one.
Kevin. Appreciate that. Oh,
Oh
Kevin's so
yeah.
good. He's watching both streams at the same time, like a champ.
You guys are absolutely saints. There's a good few of them as well,
Oh,
pointing
thank
out
you,
that they're
Shellback
making work.
Bo. You are awesome. Your dedication to us is really, I'm blushing a little bit.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay,
it's
we can
definitely
move
worth
on
it.
to the next thing.
Okay, so the next few ones, both of you go, both for yourself and Ghost sent me this one as
Yeah.
well. So it was the two of you. One second, I'll bump over to Ghost's thing. It was the fewer sources have an upper class Anglo-Irish. Where was this one from? Oh yeah, this is the
Yeah, so
Limerick.
that's
That was the
another,
Limerick one.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so that's
It's
the
another,
Limerick.
it's one of these, bit cathedral bits. So
Yeah.
what's great about this is it gives us a style of hat, right?
Mm,
And this is a style of hat that we do see in the continent, not so much in England, interestingly,
mm,
but we do see that style of hat on the continent. And basically it's like a bag
yeah.
that's rolled and stuck on the head.
Mm.
And it's made of wool, no doubt, made of wool. And it just, you then just drape the one side of the bag off to the side jauntily, right?
Mm.
And it's just a really, I think it's a really fun look.
That's so
And
fascinating that you say it's not in You said it was not in England, was it?
that style, I haven't really seen evidence of that style specifically
So
in England. Now,
that's
I should
interesting.
preface that
Go
by
on.
saying the Reformation wasn't great for English art
Yeah.
either.
But I was just thinking to myself because it's found in Limerick, and that's by the Desmond Fitzgeralds, who are also at this
Right.
point, as Susan had pointed out with her source earlier, the Fitzgeralds at this point are role playing that they're Florentine. Is
Right.
this a thing of trade going from the Iberian Peninsula up
I
to
mean,
Limerick?
you definitely do see this. You do see this exact, I mean, maybe you see this exact hat
Mm,
on Florentine and other northern Italian men all
mm.
across the first half of the 15th century, actually.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah,
Like that just blows my mind. So
yeah.
I'm hoping maybe, as you said there, somebody will end up finding it in England, but I hope they don't because it supports that madness. Well, I was about to say the madness of the Fitzgeralds, but no. The Fitzgeralds were Florentine. This is a fact, okay?
This is a fact, right? Yeah,
Yeah, they were not
they're
Normans,
ancient
okay?
Latin blood.
Yes. That's it, and that's how they ended up getting a hold of all this stuff. It had nothing to do with them trying to justify having long trade all the way to the Florentine and being
No,
very
no.
close to certain Florentine families. No. They were Italian the whole time, huh?
They were Italian the whole time. Ancient
Geraldinis, huh?
Yeah, the Celtic people made their way to Italy back in the third century
Yeah,
BC. They
yeah,
settled there, and then some of them split off and continued up to Ireland. And of course, the families just stayed connected all those 2,000 years, right? Yeah,
yeah.
as
It's like
one
the
does.
Austrians. Yeah. That's it. No, that I
Oh,
love that. That's
Twitchy,
so fascinating.
welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning, afternoon, evening, night.
um, I also have this from different angles as well because it was yourself and Ghost. That's an even better one. Yourself and Ghost sent me this one as well, so I do have it from different angles.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
what
absolutely.
what is also very, very interesting about this as well is that it is from Limerick, and Limerick at the time was controlled, solidly 100% controlled by both the O'Briens and the Fitzgeralds at the time as well. So this was
Those are
their main
different.
key point.
Oh, no, those are not the same.
I
They're
think it's
they
from different. One second.
Not just different angles. Look, the one person has a full flowing Irish beard and the other has nothing. He's got a
Yeah,
chin.
he says on the description. It says early mid 15th century artwork,
Yeah.
which is covered
I
of the
I
Limerick,
think
which
I
shows
think
two men.
they're from the same building, but they're
Yeah,
two different sculptures.
Yeah, it shows two. He just has on the description that it shows two men, one in pleated
Yep,
gown, and the other one is wearing a bag hat. The style is popular in the first half of the century, so it is
yep.
two men on the. I don't know if is this on a chair or what, because one of the things he has, it looks
The
like it's on.
misericord, yeah,
Yeah,
I think it looks like it's carved wood to me,
yeah,
so I think it might be a misericord. Yeah.
yeah. It's fascinating nonetheless. I think the two of them are absolutely gorgeous. Let me zoom
No,
on this
they're
one.
beautiful. And
Yeah.
I love this gentleman because he's got that beautiful Irish beard and mustache that the statutes of Kilkenny complain about incorrectly. Right. So he's
uh,
got, I mean, look at this. See there we've got clean shaven. And then on the other, yeah, that's a misericorde. Oh yeah,
mm,
100%. That's a misericorde. Okay,
uh,
so for those who don't know what a misericorde is, this is the monks' stalls. And this is the monks would basically stand in those stalls, and the misericorde is like this little tiny hinged bench perch that they can perch their asses on and sort of sit down into without sitting. But
mm,
misericords were actually hinged, so they could actually come down and be full out seats.
mm.
And what would sometimes happen is the monks would fall asleep during mass, and then they would slip and the whole seat would fall open and make this really loud clacking sound. And
Mm.
so in German we have the expression halte die Klappe, and that literally means shut up, but it comes from the Klappe literally means that folding seat. And so
Mm,
they're telling them to hold your folding seat, don't let it fall, don't fall yourself. So
mm,
that's
mm,
it's called a misericorde because it's supposed to be an act of mercy to the monks to let them have just a little something on which to perch their butts while they're
mm,
standing for hours on end.
mm, mm.
So yeah, those are misericords, 100%. And so we can see that beautiful beard there, right? That
Mm,
really seems to be a very typical Irish look, right? That
right.
is, this is not fashionable in England at all in this time. And it's
Mm,
mentioned, the statutes of Kilkenny date to the 1360s, but even
yeah.
still, they mention, as I said earlier, that the English men in the Pale need to be shaving themselves every 2 weeks at least so that they can be distinguished from the Irish. And so I really think that one of the things about Irish dress,
Mm.
Gaelic fashions, is this beautiful flowing beard and mustache. I mean, look at those curls, man. I've got beard envy and I don't even want a beard.
Yeah, I need to get that going there for my ancestors. Will I pop on to, because I think the next one is the same again. It's just from a different angle now. Although
Yes,
he's kind
yes.
of got, yeah. I think that from this angle, let me see.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
see,
kind of
Ghost actually, he must have actually gone there and gotten pictures of these misericords, right?
perhaps I'm not sure. He just kind of sent it up onto the Discord last night for us
Ah, there we go.
when I was poking around.
Uh, yeah, no, that might actually be yet a different one. It might be,
Hmm.
I don't know, it could just be the angle too at which the picture was taken. So it just
I
looks,
mean, look at the
the,
previous
the
one.
beard doesn't
Yeah,
look quite as full from that angle, but
yeah.
that could just be the angle. But wow, that's a great shot of that misericord because you can really see how it acts as a foldable seat that folds down or folds up because there's the channels on either side. Yeah,
Mm,
but yeah,
mm,
so
mm,
he's
mm,
wearing a gown, as they say in English. In French, it's called an houppelande. And
mm,
you
mm.
can see those beautiful full pleats and the turn back collar. And you know, it's full, that bulk in there is no doubt created by it being lined in fur.
Mm, mm, mm. A brilliant question of Paul there asking, where did that style of cap come from?
So it, you know, where it came from,
Mm,
I can't tell you per se because there's no record that says, well, this cap came from here. But I will tell you that that style of cap is very fashionable in Italy in the first half of the 15th century.
yeah, which fits into the sources that Susan was quoting from earlier, which says that the Geraldines going into 1403 were starting to
Yeah,
declare that they were Italian, not
yeah,
English. But at the
yeah,
same time, you have to remember they also had some weird feud going on with the English as well, where they were still going over to see their English cousins, but they were also feuding against Tolbert, who at the same
right.
time was fighting Joan of Arc. Now, at this time as well, remember, Henry VI is too young to govern England. Okay,
Yeah,
so now you have the likes of the Geraldines and Butlers being more Irish than the Irish themselves. They can pretty much do whatever they want. So they're going around speaking Irish, what was it called? Fitzgerald, sorry, James the Usurper Fitzgerald is role playing that he's Italian, going over to quote unquote see his Geraldini relations in, this is the madness that's happening at the time, and I absolutely love
He's
it.
role playing that he's Italian.
Yeah, he's going into, he rocks up. Like,
Fantastic. I love
what
it. I
happens
love
is
it.
in
I love
1403,
it.
he goes into the Irish Parliament and declared that he'd always been Italian. He has met he's made contact with his relatives in Florence, the Geraldini, and
Yeah. The
at some point,
Gherardini. Yeah.
yeah, at some point there are Italians that do rock. You see, what's crazy about this is there is actually Italians that rock up and clarify what the Fitzgeralds are saying, and the Fitzgeralds have to quickly rush in this trade agreement with the two. Now, this is all fact, by the way. The Fitzgeralds are, in fact, Italian. It's nothing to do with making a ton of money on trade. Nothing to do with that whatsoever. It's
No,
nothing to do with money.
no.
It's 100% them just finding their roots. That's that, okay?
Completely. I mean, the Irish were not, there was the poor, simple Irish, Philip. Of course, they're not going to
Yes. We just
involve
didn't know any
themselves in the
better.
complexities of interscene trade relations.
Yeah.
No, no, no.
That's
They're
it.
just
That's it.
wandering around the bogs wearing nothing, and that's that.
Yeah, yeah. And now they happen to be Italian, okay? And now they happen to be dressing Italian, okay?
Right, just happen to be. Now, I will say that this style of bag hat, and I don't have a specific word for this style of hat. There, the 15th century sources that talk about clothes, the original 15th century sources, don't necessarily, they don't come with pictures, right? So if inventory talks about a chapeau, for instance, that just means hat. We don't know which of these head coverings that might have been, right? They don't necessarily get that specific. So I'm just going to call this a bag hat. This bag hat is also, we do also see it in France and in Burgundy and Flanders, right? So it's a pretty happening style. So, where it originated, my suspicion is probably Italy, because as I'm thinking back through the mental art museum in my head, the earliest depiction I can think of it is like 1400 Italy, but we don't know. The answer is I couldn't solidly say this hat comes from Lucca in 1402, for instance.
Hey guys, everyone who's just joining us now, thank you for joining us. Myself and Rachel are talking about late 15th century clothing in Ireland. Rachel's planning on making some clothing for me in the future, and she's setting up an old GoFundMe because these clothes and her time is going to take a whole load of time and effort and stuff. But she will be making videos on how to make late medieval Irish clothing. So definitely, if you've just jumped onto the channel now, definitely stay tuned because we have a ton of stuff going up. Rachel right now is just telling what late medieval Irish clothing would have looked like at the time and is explaining that information to me. My name is Philip from Irish Medieval History. So if you haven't already subscribed, definitely subscribe to myself and definitely subscribe to Rachel as well from the creative Contessa.
Astronomuse, welcome. Wow, joining us from Dallas. Fantastic. And Susan says reading marriage contracts from the Medici and Lorenzo de Medici's poetry.
Oh, nice.
I'm not certain what that was in connection to, unfortunately.
I'm assuming that's back to the Fitzgeralds. Could you please, if that's the Fitzgeralds, definitely elaborate on that one.
Yeah. So this gentleman, he's pretty fashionable, I would say. He's Irish. That is not an Englishman. Not at all. Not at all. Not unless he's one of those Englishmen who's gone native, as it were.
This is quite exciting because this is the period of Seamus MacTiarmid, Fitzgerald, the Earl of Desmond. So there is a good chance that he probably looked like this, or it could be actually him, like.
And I mean, these garments would have been very warm, completely fur-lined. You can see the collar goes all the way up to the neck, right? And this lovely wool bag hat would have been a really nice, warm, fashionable piece, right? It wouldn't have just been stylish. It would have kept your head very nice and warm, and it would have kept the rain off of it too. So.
Happy days. This is amazing. And Susan asks, what colors do you see you wearing? As in myself, Oh, my favorite colors are definitely much more darker. I love dark greens, especially for my, when I'm doing stuff, and I love yellows and stuff as well mixed inside there, and other stuff. Why, you're not a fan of those, Rachel?
Oh, no, no, no. I love green. Um,
Mm.
the colors that are fashionable in this era are dark colors.
That's good for me.
Saturated colors. That's
Mm,
saturated colors. So
mm,
what we know from the wills in Dublin, there's a whole bunch of wills that have survived from Dublin in the 15th century. We
mm,
know that gowns were often blue or red or black.
mm, mm,
Um, I don't remember, and I think I did. Oh no, right. Lord Michael, the the highest prelate in Ireland, the uh, God, Lord Michael Tregear, right?
mm,
Michael Tregear. He had a green velvet gown, for
mm,
instance. So yeah, so we can do that. Yellow, not so much for the overgarments, but we do have evidence of yellow hosen from this era.
mm.
So we could make your hosen yellow.
Nice. Will I push on to the effigy that you sent me there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I'm not sure what that one is, but that's the same style as well. Funny enough, same kind of hat.
Yeah, so
Is
that's
it
another
actually?
example. That's another, and that's not an effigy. That's like a capital from a church that was ruined by
Oh,
probably Oliver Cromwell. I'm going to go with possibly Henry
mm,
VIII, but it could go either way. But again, it's another example of potential headwear that we could have for you. This one is
mm,
a little more conservative in its cut. It's not quite as voluminous as the bag hat that we saw before, but it's the same idea that it's a bag of fabric that you roll up and stick on your head, right? So,
mm,
but
mm,
this gentleman, you'll notice, unless it was cut away, but I don't think it was, he does not have a beard. He has no beard. He has no mustache.
mm. All civilized, is it?
Yeah. Not quite as fashionable as our last gentleman, shall we say.
Susan is asking as well. Is that the? I'm assuming, Susan, you're asking if that's the Archbishop of Armagh.
Oh, you're talking, maybe she's talking about Lord Michael Tregear. He was no,
Oh,
he was the, I forget what the title was, the primate of Ireland, maybe. I think it might be the primate of
mm,
Ireland was his official title. He was the head of the Irish Church
yeah.
in the 15th century. Like he was the equivalent of the Archbishop of Canterbury. So maybe it was the Archbishop of Armagh.
Mm.
Yeah.
This is an interesting question as well because
Mhm.
myself and Rachel have been, and especially with comment, we had a full what was it? I wouldn't say an argument. We had a conversation the other day with
Yeah.
Caveman as well about this question too. And it's myself and Rachel have been pulling our hair out about this, even private conversations. And we're going to talk about
Yeah.
this with Melissa Shields as well. Is so the question is, and so okay, first off, I'll just read it. So at around that time in Ireland, were there colours clothing not permitted to wear? And you're bang on. You see, this is a really, really interesting question because
Mhm.
in the early medieval period, we have a Irish law by Fergus Kelly. And in that book, he points out that during the early medieval period, that in Ireland, you were only allowed to wear certain colors, right?
Yeah.
If you were a slave, it was black and white. Then if you were of the working class, it was, certain colors. And then as you went to up the nobility, you got to wear more and more colors until you eventually got to the top, which is you having multicolors and big blues and big,
Yeah.
purples and all that kind of stuff, right? The problem is going into the high Middle Ages, as I was saying to Rachel yesterday, is that you have the Norman invasion. The Normans are trying to enforce English common law and what was it called, church common law as well. And you have the Irish, even common Irish that are supposed to be levy, peasants on a field and stuff, are refusing to follow half of these rules and stuff. So eventually they have to bring in Brehon law with Brehon judges. But the problem is now the Brehon judges are kind of doing their own thing as well, adapting to the new laws and changes that have happened into society. So for myself and Rachel are looking at this stuff and we're like, we don't know. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so the Brehon laws are back, but what changes have happened because of all these invasions and wars,
Yeah.
And not dealing with the 10th, it's no longer the 10th century anymore. We're now dealing with the 15th century, and it's like a complete, this is what, 600 years afterwards? This is
Yeah.
a completely different world.
Completely
So,
different world. I
yeah,
mean, for instance, that black and white thing, right? I
mm,
suspect that in the first millennium, the
yeah,
black and white that they were referencing was undyed. right?
Yeah.
So it was black that was from black or brown sheep wool that was from black or brown sheep. And if it was linen, then it was from unbleached flax, right? Or maybe
Yeah.
just bleached but not dyed. So those are
Yeah.
the least expensive versions of wool and linen you can have because they haven't been colored in any way. But by the 15th century, black is the most expensive color. So there's no way that black was still being reserved for slaves in the 15th
Yeah.
century, right? So yeah, we're trying to find more information about that, but it's really tricky. So stay tuned. We're going to look for more what are called sumptuary laws in the
Yeah.
15th century. What we do know is that within the Pale, now this is not outside of the Pale, this is the areas under English dominion in 1460 something, Edward IV passes a sumptuary statute, a fashion statute, forbidding women from having kerchiefs. This is a kerchief, just so we're clear. Kerchiefs and smocks. This is a smock that are dyed saffron yellow. Now, I haven't been able to find out. I need to find the intro to that section of the law because usually there's an explanation that is given, and I don't think we should not just assume automatically, oh, it's just Edward IV being racist, because these sumptuary laws are often, they have an economic component, right? There's often an economic, not just a social component to it. So I'd be interested if there was something happening with the economy of saffron, for instance, that saffron was getting overused for dyeing garments, for instance, because you would need a lot of saffron to make a garment yellow and for it to last any length of time. And saffron was expensive and it was not easy to grow. And, you know, there was a saffron farm in England in this time, or saffron area of saffron cultivation, but it probably wasn't enough to meet the whole demand for saffron. So I just really wonder if there wasn't some other anxiety tied to that went beyond, we just don't want the Irish looking Irish.
Yeah.
Right. I'd like us as much as possible to move away from that as the excuse for everything the English do. Right?
It's the problem is, as Dr. O'Neill had said yesterday, the problem is that we're going into eras now, especially once it's not so bad in the Wars of the Roses in both Ireland and England. The problem really starts going into the Tudor period when the English, the Tudors, start to romanticize the Romans a bit too much. And they start to take on this idea that we are Romans and the Irish are kind of savage barbarians. And we're there where our purpose in life is to civilize them. And that's why they start to build, plantations. Because they look at the sources and they say, the Romans used to build plantations. We'll build plantations. And that's kind of their behavior inside of Ireland, which is completely detrimental. It's so
absolutely 100%.
stupid.
And that's post-medieval, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
after the
it
15th
is.
century.
And you see, the thing is, what's crazy is when William Marshall was in charge in the 13th century, Kilkenny thrived. There was no problems between Gaelic people and English people coming together under William Marshall. Why? Because first off, he bullied to make sure everyone went to church together and mingled and came together as a society. William Marshall brought people together. But the Tudors in there, well, we're civilized. And if we keep hitting you into the face, you'll eventually become civilized, right? Like us, because that's what the Romans did. Yeah, that doesn't work in reality. It doesn't work in real life, you know? I don't know. Madness. I'll push on to the next one. So, right?
Absolutely.
Up it goes. Oh, yes. He's got the hat as well. And I'm assuming this is meant to be a common bowman, or is it meant to be more of a
these are
noble
archers.
class?
No, these are archers. So these are archers from the Abbey of oh darn it, I sent you the name. It was a new name to me. It's an abbey on the west coast of Ireland, basically. And so again, it's relatively far away from the areas of English dominion. And so this is I sent you two pictures. I sent you two from this. So we'll look at this one first. So these are Irish archers. And what's fascinating is that, like archers typically do, they are wearing short garments because, you know, and they're wearing garments with not big sleeves, although in Korea in this period, archers wear massive sleeves, but the noblemen do archery in 15th century Korea, which they don't really in 15th century Europe. So yeah, so we've got here hosen. We've got a nice pair of shoes with sexy little points on them. He's got a very interesting hat on, and he is, you know, wearing a doublet that is fitted, or a gown that is fitted to about the waist, and then it's got kind of a full skirt, but the skirt is very, very short. It's very, very short. And so those hosen are probably joined. It is probably unlikely that they are separate hosen. And he's got a shirt on underneath, and it looks like the gown, the thing that's on top, actually only goes to the elbows. Because if you look closely at his elbows, both elbows, you can see a line, a dark line going around his elbows. And on the elbow that's further away from us, it's even more clear that the thing that's on his forearm is a separate garment coming out of that overgarment. So he's got probably a doublet of some kind, and under that doublet is probably a shirt that's under this gown. And we see this really short style of gown in France. We also see something kind of sort of equivalent to this in the Italies. So, you know, but it's different. It's variations on a theme, right? This is definitely an Irish version of that versus the kinds of styles you're seeing in the continent. For one thing, the collar on the gown, on this teeny tiny short gown, goes all the way up to his neck and is actually a turn back collar. I can't recall offhand seeing any of these short gowns anywhere else in Europe that go all the way up to the neck and have a turn back collar like that, for instance.
That's crazy that we have a look for bowmen, because normally what you see default, this is a bigger picture of it now, but default, you'll always think, when people think of bowmen in Ireland in the 15th century, people then jump over to the Tudor era and they give the look of the kerns, because you see later on in the 16th century, we see kerns with bows and stuff, and we think, oh, well, that's how the Irish always looked in the medieval period. But now you're just tearing that apart. You're like, oh, well, that's clearly a bowman, an Irish bowman of the 15th century. And you can see this by A, B, and C. And I'm just like sitting here going, okay, so everything I've been told is now a lie.
I mean, so, you know, I like to go where the evidence is rather than where the evidence isn't, right? So people can scream left, right, and center, this is how they dressed in the 16th century. Yes, keywords, 16th century. That doesn't mean that's how they dressed before. Until someone shows me a depiction of an Irishman dressing in the 15th century, the way they dressed in the 16th century, I don't believe it. Whereas we have depictions of Irish people, as we've been looking at this whole time, and none of them look like those 16th century depictions, right? So maybe it's time for us to let go of this idea that Ireland, the Irish people just always wore the same clothes for 1,000 years. And
they're now all Italian and they dress Italian.
and the thing is that, you know, some people might say, well, there must be a foreign artist who did that. No. If they had brought in a foreign artist, they would have brought them in for extreme skill at being good at art. This art isn't bad, but it's also not great. So this is not this. You don't bring a mediocre artist from Flanders, right? You just go with the local talent. If you want mediocre, you have plenty of local talent that can be mediocre. So yeah, it was not someone from Flanders or Italy or France or Spain who drew this. There's no evidence of that. So yeah. Do you think the clothing here is purely functional or aesthetic? Because to me, the enhancements are so beautiful and romantic. I mean, so in the modern world, we want to think of everything as being functional or pretty. But before the modern era, both could be true. Right? You can have functional garments that are also pretty. For instance, what I'm wearing right now is pretty, but also functional. I can do literally anything in this outfit. All I have to do is kilt up my skirts with a belt and I can do kickboxing. I can hike a mountain, right?
You've done kickboxing, have you?
I have. Yes, I have.
No, you did.
I have actually. So when I say I can do anything in this, I mean that. I have tested this theory. but it's also beautiful, right? It can be beautiful and functional. This idea that you have to have your functional garments separate from your pretty garments is a relatively modern concept. So, you know, you can have nice, or even archers want to look sexy when they're out there shooting Englishmen. Come on, guys. Who doesn't want to look hot when you're killing people? Or excuse me, when you're unaliving people. Sorry, algorithm. Yeah, so I'm pretty certain that what they're seeing there is what's functional about this outfit for the archers is that it's all short and tight, right? So you don't have to worry, and by tight I mean not like voluminous baggy garments that can interfere with properly shooting your bow and running either towards the enemy or from the enemy. Or climbing, you know, climbing up a castle wall or climbing over someone's, you know, other kinds of fences, right? So it's the shortness is functional. That little skirt, the fullness of the skirt, that's ornamental. That's ornamental. It doesn't have to be that way.
Okay. Can you do parkour? Now you guys are pushing it. Guys running, hanging off the building and everything now.
I can do some forms of parkour in this. The skirts will start getting in the way if I try to do somersaults.
I'll move on to the boys. Your favorite place in Sligo now, shall I?
Oh yes, please.
After you just blew our minds.
Let us go to my favorite place.
It's actually where my mother's from. Well, my mother's side of the family, Sligo.
Right. Okay. So this is the Ballymote Bible, and this is an Irish Bible. These were not English illuminators. I want to make that very clear. So this is a depiction of Irish nobility in about 1400. This is Noah's Ark. But, you know, Noah in medieval mythos, Noah's family were basically royalty, right? They were nobility because God wouldn't have chosen lowly peasants, obviously, to save humanity. He would have only chosen nobility. So this is depicting actually a royal family. You can tell that because they've actually put crowns on them in some cases.
Nice.
And what we've got here, so this is 1400, so it's kind of at the other end of the century, but I still think it's important. It's a really excellent depiction of stylish Irish noblemen in 1400. They've got on what is basically called a coat or a coat hardy in French. It's just called a coat in this era. In English, they're still using the French word cote. You have the women in these layered goffered veils where basically it's just this long strip of very finely woven linen with a frilly edge, and then they just fold them over and over and over and drape them over their heads, and then they fold in this beautiful way around and frame their faces with these beautiful frills, right? Again, we've got, but you know, some of the very Irish things here. Look at those curls. Look at those sexy curls. All the men have sexy curls. They've got, the king has that really sexy, like, you know, length hair that's just past the ears, long enough to curl handsomely. Nice full beard and mustache. The young man, maybe a young man based on height, but not too young because he's got a beard, has all those beautiful curls on top of his head, right? So those are the very Irish elements of this, that they have this style of hair and these beards, because again, in other places in Europe, clean shaven or a very sort of fine goatee kind of thing is what's in fashion now elsewhere. But here we've got all these fantastic beards and mustaches and the long hair, which is again referenced directly in the statutes of Kilkenny. Yes. So, and we've got children, and you know, Noah's wife and an older daughter, or his son's wife. I think that might be his son's wife. Yeah. So, you know, we've got an idea of how the Irish nobility were dressing in this era. On the top, what we don't necessarily know is what is underneath. And it is in about this era that nobleman from Catalonia, Ramon de Perellos, pays a visit to St. Patrick's Purgatory. He goes on pilgrimage, right? And he reports about, he writes a travel vlog, which is fantastic. Yeah. And his travel vlog talks about visiting King O'Neill. He calls him King O'Neill. Yeah, he calls it, that's how he calls it, you know, it's this Iberian idea of hierarchy and rank structure. And, you know, he goes to the court of King O'Neill, he says. And he talks about how everyone is dressed there in this very exotic, to him, exotic fashion.
Yeah.
And he talks about how they're all naked, except then he talks about these garments they are wearing. So I think in his mind, what made them naked was that they weren't wearing all the layers that he would wear, as you know, he's wearing hosen and brays and an undershirt and a doublet and a coat, right? But the way it sounds like the king and his men were probably not wearing brays, and the women may have been just wearing a smock and the kirtle rather than all the layers. And we see that here, right? They're not wearing any, the ladies aren't apparently wearing any things over top of their fitted gowns, and the kings aren't either, right? They're just wearing just these fitted coats. So yeah, either way, this is a excellent depiction of, another way of showing how connected Ireland was to the mainland, because this style, and also how a little bit out of date they were, because this style, this silhouette, had more or less gone out of fashion by 1400 in mainland Europe and in England, but it was still being worn in Ireland. And then we also have the moy gown. If you go to if you go to the moy gown, that is an extant dress that was found. Oh no, not okay. So that's for the men. Yeah, we'll go there. Okay, so that's for the men. Yeah. So this outfit, this is from Sligo, right? So this outfit is a bog find, and there's a debate about the dating of this, whether it dates to the 14th or 15th century or whether it dates to the 17th century. Apparently, no one thought or can afford to do carbon dating on it.
No.
Right? But you'll see just how very similar that garment is to the Ballymote Bible that we just looked at. And then if you go to the picture of the Irish bard.
Oh, I'm jumping around the place like there's no tomorrow. This is the gown you were talking about, wasn't it?
No. That's a Greenland gown. Oh wait, no, maybe it is. Yes, that is. Sorry. Yes, that is. That is the moy gown. Yep. Yeah. So we'll go there. So that's called the moy gown. It was found in a bog in Moy, and that is it having been conserved. So you can see where the original pieces were versus the pieces that they filled in. But that gown looks very much like that Ballymote Bible, right? Like very, very similar to what the women and even the men are wearing in the Ballymote Bible. And I don't recall if they found this I think they did find it with a body, which is why they think it's a woman's garment. Because otherwise you can't really know whether it's a woman's or a man's garment, because the extant one only goes as low as you see it. And we know that men were wearing garments that length in this era, as you can see in the Ballymote Bible illustration. So yeah, the nice thing about this garment is that it will give us, for our project, Philip, ideas, very specific ideas about tailoring techniques in 15th century Ireland.
Yeah.
The kinds of seams they use, the kinds of stitches they use, finishes they use, how buttons were made in 15th century Ireland, how buttonholes were made. So we'll be able to use that moy gown as a reference point for extracting actual Irish sewing techniques. So that's very exciting.
Oh, big time. And even more so, right? And you've been drilling this into everyone's heads for a while, and not just in medieval Europe as well, is the fact that also in Ireland, you're not dealing with insulated places here. You highlighted there that this is way up in the O'Neill territories. But what's crazy about this is at the same time over in Scotland, that doesn't mean that the O'Neill territories are cut off. In fact, we see these influences inside of the Scottish Hall as well. Like you see, this is the exact same outfit of an Irish bard inside of the Scottish Hall as well. So you see those influences coming in, as we pointed out earlier, coming in from the Iberian Peninsula, coming in from Bristol in England into Dublin. And also now we can see this influence going from Edinburgh in Scotland into Ireland, into the O'Neill areas, and into our project zone, which is going to be the Limerick, Clare area, where the Fitzgeralds and the O'Briens are, where we're hopefully we can make Seamus's outfit, which would be really, really awesome. But this is why this, kind of experiment archaeology of making these clothing is so exciting because
It is.
we're literally on the start of it, and we can already come across all these examples, like, which really brings Ireland out of the idea of it being an insular backwards Ireland into an island that's in between the great world of Iceland, Scotland, England, Spain, the greater medieval world, and
Yeah.
we can see that by doing this project. And that's why this project is so important.
It really is. And you know what I love about, so that picture is from the Scotichronicon, for those who don't know. It's written, it's composed, it's a history that is composed or compiled, depending on how you look at it, in 1440 by William Browder. He's a Scotsman. And what I love about that is that shows the Scottish idea of how an Irishman dressed in the era of this 1440s, and how close that outfit looks to that extant outfit that we saw from the bog, from Sligo, right? Sligo, sorry, from Sligo. So how close that looks to that entire ensemble. And it just, these pieces come together, which is why when people say, oh, well, it's definitely 17th century, I'm like, is it though? Because look at this picture from 1440 depicting an Irishman. Yeah. So we have evidence. And this is what I was saying at the beginning of the stream. We have evidence. We have lots of evidence for Irish clothing across the various centuries, but the challenge is finding all the pieces and putting them together. That's the challenge, because it's not in one place. It's in this chronicle. And that look, we had to go to freaking Scotland to find that picture, right? We had, we've got Irish manuscripts popping up in Austrian libraries now. So the resources, the primary sources that we're going to be using for this project are going to take time to find and unearth. Like, where you and I are still stumbling across random and important bits that will flesh out this picture. And it's going to take time. And so that's part of the reason we're doing this GoFundMe, is because it's going to take time. And for doing the time to make this, we're not going to have time to do things that would actually earn money to help us live and eat. So yeah, I'm very excited about this. All the pieces, I think we have a good number of pieces to be able to really to turn you into that Irish nobleman from the 15th century you've always wanted to be.
Oh, especially with the beard. I see Jim as well highlighting the fact that he believes in the power of the beard, especially with all the Irish nobles kicking about between the Fitzgeralds and the old Gaelic lords up in the north, popping up in all these depictions.
Right.
As their barbarous counterparts with big strong beards on them, for sure. Then Jim elaborates still further, and he asks questions. When it comes down, especially this depiction here, were the buttons made out of bone or horn?
Neither. They are, and I sent you a picture of cloth buttons.
Yes, you did.
Let me you could pop that up. Yeah. I'll start talking while you find it. So buttons in this era were either cast metal. We do have some wood buttons, but they were covered in cloth, and these are cloth buttons. So the ones you see on that garment are cloth buttons. The extant garment on the Moy gown as well. And this is an example of a little tiny scrap of buttons that were found in Wexford or Waterford, I think. They're cloth buttons. They're self-stuffed. I have a tutorial on the Creative Contessa on how to make these buttons. If you want to, if you go and look up making buttons, you should be able to find it. It's simple. It's super simple. You cut out a circle of cloth, and you take thread and you just run a running stitch all the way around, about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch in from the edge of your circle. Draw it tight to make a little pouch, and then tuck the edges in and sew that shut. And there you have a button. And the nice thing about buttons like that is that it allows you to use almost every last bit of fabric that is left over from cutting out a garment. So all those little scraps, you turn them into buttons. So to the medieval mind of we waste not, want not, cloth, self-stuffed cloth buttons were the ultimate answer.
I'm just, Kevin, I'm just going to type that in there because I actually don't know of that source. Maybe, Rachel, you've seen that source before.
Oh, let me see. What did I miss? Have you seen Weckerlin print of the procession at Stuttgart 1670? I have. Oh, maybe I have. I might have. Now that you're saying that, from 1617, I might have. It's sort of frustrating that many of the depictions we have of the Irish, well, from the 16th and 17th century come from foreign sources, which makes them suspect.
Mm.
Let me see. I'm just checking back to see if I missed any important questions here. Well, any questions that I can answer, rather, because all questions are important.
Oh yeah, the Berg. But have you looked at the Berg's manual from 1583? I forgot all about that one. He's got the Bergs did an entire book in 1583, and I keep bloody forgetting about that book. Have you seen that one?
I have seen it, yeah, but
Yeah,
1583 is 100 years past this
yeah.
project, so not
We
relevant.
do like I'll quickly show you that we did add in the Anglo-Irish armor that you also see because when people
Oh yeah,
just to keep everyone up to speed, what Kevin's probably point what was it poking us at is the fact that the armor that you see in the 15th century is very similar to the armor that pops up in the de Burgh's book in 1583. But
right,
we feel it's not just myself and Rachel, but there's also other academics and even Mihal yesterday was highlighting the fact that he feels that it's just romanticizing the past, that
right,
they're the reason why they're doing effigies and also books and showing armor from the 15th century is because the 15th century for the Irish was a very romanticized era. You know, like it starts off with the Gaelic resurgence of Ireland, with Art MacMorra literally physically taking the tribute from Dublin, literally showing that, hey, Dublin is ours. That's why you have the likes of Dr. Owen O'Neill, who gets frustrated when people refer to it as the English Pale, because it goes, the power dynamic in Dublin goes back and forth between the Irish and the
right.
English at this point, and that's why it should be referred to as the Pale. On the flip side of that as well, what was it called? I was going to put up more references on Anglo-Irish armor at the time because this is what Anglo-Irish armor looks like in the era
Yeah,
of Seamus, the person we're trying to depict. So like Kevin is bang on right to look at this stuff.
yeah.
And there's already great work on Instagram. I was going to put up the sources in this, so I do apologize for people I was asking for sources and stuff. They gave me sources, and I couldn't post it up because I ran out of room and space. Because myself and Rachel last night we were doing research, and even this morning we were doing research, and we just ended up putting so many photos into this that we actually ran out of space. It's got like we can put the maximum of
Yeah, we have
40
space
photos.
limitations.
Yeah, of 40 photos, and then it just blocked it out. So we end up with too much sources to put in for the today's presentation. We'll chuck in more stuff later on, of course, when we continue to advertise what our findings and stuff to you guys. You okay,
Yeah,
Rachel?
so that effigy is I think that's Margaret Fitzgerald, one of the Margaret Fitzgeralds. Anyway, if I'm that might be the effigy. So the problem is these effigies all start looking the same, so it can be really hard to date them. It's worn down enough that, and the Gothic writing script on the side might make it the one I'm thinking of that is actually from the 1440s. So yeah, the knight, he's depicted in armor because, you know, that's the only way you can depict a knight when he dies, apparently. But the lady is depicted in clothing, and she is wearing the Irish version of the upalond. But you can tell that she is wearing a gown over top of a kirtle, because if you look at her hem, you see the two separate hems there. So the kirtle is actually a little longer than the gown, which is different and interesting. You can see the sexy little points of her pointed shoes peeking out there at the pillow at her feet. And she's got, the gown is fur lined, or at least, or it might not be fur. It could be the trim around her collar could be velvet. Actually, that could be a velvet collar. It's hard to tell when it's stone in this style. But she's got a belt around her waist, and it's pretty low belt. And that is very interesting because that is not how these gowns were worn on the continent. When they were still full like this, with all of these natural folds, these pleats that form, they were wearing the collars, the belts were actually higher and really, really wide. But she's got a relatively narrow belt, and it's worn at her natural waist. So that's a very Irish style. That is not English. That is not anywhere else in Europe that I've ever seen with this style of gown. So again, we have this idea that the Irish are adapting what they're seeing from other parts of their world, but making it their own at the same time.
It's absolutely amazing, to be quite honest with you. And even this one here, I remember you were showing me this the other day. I'll probably pop back into the photos, but I think this is important to what we're saying right now. You were
Mm.
saying this was an
Yeah.
Icelandic influence.
That's Denmark. So that one is
Denmark.
from Denmark.
Okay.
So that, and I included this because, we talk about Irish clothing being conservative while also being innovative. And so this is actually a completely extant ensemble that was found in Denmark in a bog.
Mm,
I like for bog countries to feel connected. And so Ireland with all of its bog bodies should definitely feel connected to Denmark with all of its bog bodies.
mm,
So this was a man who was found, Boxton man in Boxton. He's called the Boxton man. They
mm.
don't know who he was. They have some ideas, maybe, but nothing more than apocryphal. And all the wool garments in which he was murdered. They're pretty certain. And
Ah,
his body was put in the bog, the way that happens in Ireland too.
mm,
And so all of the woolen garments survived almost perfectly in
mm,
the anaerobic muck of the bog, but the linen deteriorated because linen doesn't do well in mud. So we don't know anything about his linen undergarments, but we know everything about his wool garments. Look, you would never know that those garments were made in the 14th century, but they are. So when we're looking, if we want to make the tunic that we see people depicted in Ireland, and there's a column, a gentleman on a column wearing a tunic gown thing that's belted and has full skirts. That's how you achieve those full skirts,
mm,
by basically taking two rectangles of wool, making slits on the sides and in the front and the back, or maybe just putting not slits on the sides, slits in the front and the back, and inserting triangular gores in front, back, and sides.
mm,
And that's what will create that full skirt with the minimum fabric waste. And then, when you put it on, it just sort of falls into these nice folds from your waist down.
mm, mm.
So, if we were looking to make something like that, we could absolutely use this garment as a model for that, because it's not this style of construction didn't change very much over the centuries. So
It
yeah, if
did
we,
the
depending on
hood.
what we settle on to make for you, this could
Mm.
be also a model for how to assemble like an overgarment, for instance.
Ah, nice, nice. It's interesting as well because it reminds me of this effigy of the hood as well, and I'm assuming
Yep,
this is the one that's also dated to the 15th century as well.
yep, yep. That one were pretty certain dates to the 15th century. And
Mm,
that is a very fitted hood cloak. And unfortunately, you can see the lower half is gone. So we
mm,
don't know how long that cloak may or may not have been. In the mid 14th century, those cloaks, in the mid to second half of the 14th century, those cloaks were getting shorter, like mid thigh.
mm.
But we don't know. This is Ireland. Ireland likes to take
Yeah.
continental fashions and make them their own. But at
Mm,
least we know that it's a full cloak and it's got a fitted hood. I mean, look how very tightly fitted that hood is. He
mm.
doesn't have a beard, he doesn't have a mustache. Could be an indication that it's not an Irishman, or could be an Irishman who's wearing more English styles. We don't know.
Has
There's
to go to Parliament.
right. We don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
But but this is a style that is not really being worn anymore in 14th century, 15th century Europe, or
Mm.
15th century England, but it does seem to still be carrying on here in 15th century Ireland.
I love these hoods, so I'm not going to complain. And it reminds
Yeah.
me of this one you sent me last night as well.
Yeah, so that's the one I was talking about, where if we wanted to make that, we
Mm,
could use the Boxton Man tunic as a model for how to make it.
mm,
Because you see how it's fitted-ish in the body. It's not like tight, but it's not baggy in the body. And
mm,
then the skirts are very clearly full because of the way that the artist, the sculptor, has lovingly carved the folds, right?
mm,
So you can achieve that for a working class gentleman with that geometric construction, with those triangular gores inserted in the skirt area.
mm,
And of course, then you have that nice hood. Again, it's tightly fitted. And it could be that he's wearing what is called a kerchief, or sometimes called a coif in 15th century English. So this linen fitted cap, basically, that ties under his chin. And then over top of that, he's got his hood on. That could be the two layers that we're seeing there, possibly,
mm, mm.
around his face. Now,
Sexy.
I suspect this gentleman, he's not a king. I don't think he's even a nobleman. I think he's probably of the middling sort, as we would say,
Just
because
going for an old walk.
this, yeah, this is like from probably a capital on a
Mm,
column in a church and or an abbey, and the sculptors really like to include everyone in their work. So
mm,
the big statues were reserved for the kings and the queens, the nobility, the biblical figures, but they could get away basically with putting anything, and I do mean anything, even the most obscene things, into these little nooks and crannies. And so
mm,
very frequently we find depictions of common people,
mm.
of the workaday men and women hidden in little corners like this. So I really suspect that this is more a middling sort, maybe a peasant.
Mm.
And peasant again is not a poor person, just means he's a farmer, right? Or maybe a craftsman of some kind. Yeah.
Exciting stuff. I also find this comment as well very, very exciting as well. Just wondering if this fashion was impacted by the Moors. That's also very exciting as well because we do have a lot of sources in the 15th and 16th century that highlights trade going into the Iberian Peninsula and North Africa, and further still, we also have skirmish fighting happening between the pirates, between the Berber pirates and the Moorish pirates against Gaelic pirates as well. So that interaction is happening in the 15th and 16th century. And it's always funny because somebody in the comment section will be like, but Africa doesn't exist. And I'm like, well, it kind of does. So
Wait. Okay. So the question was in reference to which of the garments?
I'm assuming I don't have to go back
Just
into. I'm
wondering if
assuming
this
it's
fashion was but in Spain, remember that by the 15th century, Spain is almost not Moorish anymore. There's only one tiny little corner left
yeah.
of Moorish Spain, and that is Granada, and
Mm,
that's about to go away by 1492.
mm,
So not necessarily so much the Moors, but I've said this to Philip before. I'm pretty certain that the big sleeves of the
mm.
lena that we start seeing in the 16th century were influenced by Spain.
Yeah. And it's not just that as well. It looks like weaponry wise as well. There was a few other Irish military historians as well. Thinks the Targe shield. The
Mm,
reason why that comes back into Ireland and stuff could be from an Iberian Peninsula influence.
right.
So that could be because I think the Iberian Peninsula also switches back into the Holy Roman Empire and all that stuff under Charles V. Also goes back into using round shields and stuff as well. But remember, I don't specialize in 15th and 16th century Spanish warfare, so I'm not quite sure what the full story is there. But it is interesting that people bring that up, that we're seeing those influences coming from the Iberian Peninsula into Ireland. But is it possible for Moorish and Berbers to be trading and stuff at this point and influences there? I perhaps maybe there's an influence there just because there's still trading happening in North Africa, and we still have was a Berber and Moorish pirates going into Ireland to fight with the likes of Grace O'Malley and stuff. And that, I know that's much more later on, but it's the same thing in the 15th century where with the push of the Ottoman Empire, you have those Berber and Moorish pirates coming into the Irish area, from my understanding and reading so far.
But the garments they're wearing at this point, so in that part of the Islamic world, basically by the
Mm,
15th and 16th century, it's kaftans. So if we
okay.
were seeing Irishmen in kaftans now, I would say yes, but we're
Okay.
not. So I don't think so. I really
Okay.
don't. Not
Yeah.
no. I don't see the visual evidence for that because the Ottomans, I was just in Istanbul, for those who don't know. I was at Topkapi Palace, and they have a whole section of Topkapi Palace that is extant 15th, 16th, 17th and 18th century Ottoman garments, and
Mm,
it's all kaftans, all
mm,
kaftans all the
mm, mm.
time.
For sure.
So yeah.
Wayne, why are you so late? You were meant to be here yesterday. Myself and Mihal were looking for you yesterday, Wayne, because the Australian Irish were acting absolutely mental yesterday. And we were like, where's Wayne? Where's Wayne to put these people back on their leash again? It came to a stage, I think a few of them got banned because they were just saying mad stuff. It's funny, don't get me wrong. It was funny, Wayne, but they were getting banned for being too mental in the live stream yesterday. And Mihal was about to join them as well. You're looking for the bearded effigies. We actually, myself and Rachel, just finished talking about that. You'd have to go back to the very beginning of the live stream, when. But there's your bearded man there, when in Limerick, by the way,
Yeah.
when. So
Look
you'll
at
find
that.
this one over in
Oh,
Limerick.
so sexy.
Mm.
Ugh.
Myself and Wayne, myself and Rachel are looking to put together and recreate Seamus's outfit. So we've set up a GoFundMe. I'll put it back into the link there so you can find it when. So you know where to put all your money.
Oh, so Trump is Agent Orange has a comment. Granada fell in the 1490s, 1492 to be precise.
Mm,
For those who don't know, I also lived in Granada and studied at the University of Granada for a while. So
mm,
it was my home base for a while. And then he says, I'm wondering if before that time the Moors influenced the headpieces. I have no idea. No.
mm,
So here's why the Moors, what little was left, because Granada was a tiny kingdom at the very south of Spain by that point. It was
mm,
not terribly influential anymore. And the reason that it would be unlikely that Christians in the 15th century would have been imitating the Moors is because the Moors were Muslim.
mm,
Right. And that is not a line they wanted to cross. It's the same reason why noble women in 15th and 16th century Europe were not wearing turbans of the style that you see in certain artwork. And I don't mean they weren't wearing turbans, specifically the Romani turbans, because those
mm,
were turbans worn by a class of people that they looked down on.
mm,
Right. So no, I really don't think that outside of the Iberian Peninsula, the Moorish, and by the time Granada is conquered in 1492, the beautiful confluence of Jewish and Muslim and Christian cultures on the Iberian Peninsula, that beautiful fantasy was done. It was
mm,
no longer. So the Spaniards were working really hard by the 15th century to look more European and Christian, and trying to move away from the sort of merging of styles and cultures that had preceded that.
mm.
Yeah.
How do I pronounce my name? O'Herda is how I pronounce it. O'Herda. There is different pronunciations for my surname in Ireland, but I'm from the Limerick branch of the Hazes. So in my area, was it on the Gaelic side, it's referred to as O'Herda. And then if I, let's say, as we've been talking about all day today, when we have to go into the Irish Parliament. So in the Irish Parliament, I'd be referred to as Philip Hayes. But then when I go into Limerick's, the Gaelic side of it, I'll be O'Herda. So it's O'Herda in the Limerick side of things by my pronunciation. There is different pronunciations depending on where you are in Ireland and stuff like everything else. But where I'm from in Limerick, well, my family's from Limerick originally. I'm actually from Mallow. But regardless, I'd be referred to as O'Herda. And then if I had to go into the Irish Parliament, as we were talking about today, how people had to shave to go into Irish Parliament and put on more English clothing for Irish Parliament.
Yeah.
What was it called? We refer to as Hayes in
Yeah.
the Irish Parliament. Sorry, yeah, Irish Parliament.
So we've got a question. Is this the same time that the influence of Spain landed in Ireland and created the Black Irish?
Yes, it is. Bang on. You hit the nail on the head there. Yeah, Black Irish is like a big, massive umbrella term at the time for people with darker skin. So, as you can see there, I don't know why this annoys so many people so much, because a lot of common people now have this kind of black and white view of the world. But the Irish, if you haven't noticed, my skin naturally is milky white. Okay, so this gets really, really funny. So my skin is naturally milky white. Okay. Um, People who had darker skin were just in around the 15th and 16th century were just like hammered. You are Black Irish, which is funny because we also have another word as well for African people, which is Far Goram, which is blue people. If you were to directly translate it, it would be blue people. So we're both branding. What was it? Iberian. Sorry, what's it called? As you were saying there, Moorish and Berber pirates as because sometimes what would happen is obviously poor women would be taken by Berber and Moorish pirates. And so they would have children that were of mixed. And this could be also a case of trading as well, because you also would have Moorish and Berber pirates that would go into Limerick and trade with locals and stuff, and they would have children with the locals. You also have poor women that were taken by force by pirates as well. So you have traders who were, mixing around with women, and also you would have had pirates that were doing horrible things to women. And so they would have children, and they refer to the children as the Black Irish.
Right.
And that could be, and this causes a lot of arguments and debate then of, so the thing is that we were umbrella terming everybody from Spain all the way down to Africa as Black Irish. But there's also another term just for African people alone called Far Gorum, which is blue people, if you were to directly translate it. So, there's a lot of arguments and debates of how dark their skin was, because of the fact that people, sometimes they kind of think the world is just full of British white people and Nigerian black people, when in reality,
Right.
it's more complicated. And you can see that at this period of time between the 15th and 16th century, where we now have the mixing of the likes of Grace O'Malley flying around in her boat down to Spain. But on the flip side of things, you also have Berber and Moorish pirates also flying up to Ireland as well on their boats. So it's a very funny and mixed time when it comes down to the pigments of people's skin.
Yeah. Okay, well let's move on with our tour of clothing, because I do have a time limit today, so
we have to fly through now. Okay, so where were we? We'd smashed out this one, and I just want to pop in with the two things as well. The crisp belt. I'm assuming the Fitzgeralds would have had a crisp belt as well. This thing was specifically used if you were lost in sea. So if you got lost in sea, people would know who to return you to, okay? And this was also used on the battlefield as well. So if you were chopped up in the battlefield, common sense said that, okay, so maybe it's a good idea you should wear your belt so that it can return you to your family and also tell which side you're on during a battle, okay? So this was worn at the time.
Wait, I have to stop you. Do you actually have proof positive that those were actually still being worn in the 15th century? Because I found a chronicle, say, from the 14th century about an Irish warrior, and it was from an Irish source, and they described his belt as being just yellow.
Just yellow.
And it had a beautiful chased buckle. So I before you do you actually have actual sources that confirm that was still a practice? Or in the 15th century?
I have to go over and ask, what was it called? The Wild Irish group, and also Dave Swift might have a source, and also, who's the other one? Celtic Templar. So I'll ask them just to hammer that down, because I'm sure Celtic Templar has a source from the, 16th century about those things.
Ooh, 16th century is not the 15th century.
Well, if they have this idea, you have to have a belt to do, especially when you're fishing. If you get lost at sea, how are they going to tell who you are? So they have
but that's not knights wearing them. You know what I mean? And not necessarily other. So believe it or not, Philip, the rest of the world doesn't have fishermen with belts. So that when they get lost at sea, their bodies get identified.
Battlefield. We'll have an old research and a look anyway. And the second one I just want to bring up as well is definitely Seamus had the brat. Because there's so many sources.
Oh, there's a cloak. Yeah. There's a cloak. Now, what that cloak looked like is we don't know. Yeah. We know it was somehow distinctive. Because it's legislated against under Edward IV, right? He actually says that men aren't allowed to enter Parliament if they're wearing a cloak. They say a mantle. But it's very clear that they don't mean, obviously if it's cold, you need to put something on. It's very clear that it's the Irish mantle. But so what I think the Irish mantle in the 15th century was the brat. I sent you there's a picture of woolly fabric, like it's got kind of curls. Yeah, you can put that up. I'm pretty certain it was made of this wool. Yeah, there it is. I'm pretty certain it's made of that wool. And that is frieze. We call that frieze. On one side, it's smooth and finished. And on the other side, it's still curly like this. And it's treated in a specific way it's woven in a specific way. And then the nap is raised and it's treated with vinegar to make it curl like that. And It's woolly and it's warm. And this garment was exported throughout all of Europe in the 14th century. We know that because we literally have Irish mantles, manteles de Iberne, popping up in inventories and expense accounts in France and Italy, for instance. So we know these were being exported. And we know it was clearly considered a luxury item because it wasn't poor people's houses in whom these things are appearing. So, and we have depictions from the 16th century of depictions of Irish men in their brats, and they've got this woolly depiction all around their edges. So basically, I'm pretty certain that even in the 15th century, and this piece actually, this is an extant piece from the 15th century from, I don't remember if it's which of the 4 big port cities it is, but it's an extant piece that they excavated from one of those cities. So I'm pretty certain the brat is made from this.
That makes sense.
How it looked is a different question, and I haven't been able to find. We've got the picture of Art MacMore, right, riding from about 1400 is the depiction, where it's just basically a rectangle that's kind of pinned around his neck.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine that would be enough to offend these so-called English sensibilities, right? There has to be something else about it. I suspect maybe it was just really big and was not tailored and was not, it was not in any way stylish. And honestly, by the 1460s, most people in Europe are not wearing cloaks unless they're ritual in purpose. So like the knightly orders all have cloaks, and you wear your special knight's order cloak when you go to a chapter of the Order of the Fleece or the Order of the Garter or the Order of the Star, right? But those are like very nicely tailored, embroidered, made of luxurious fabrics. So I kind of feel like maybe it was just a big rectangle, but I haven't been able to find any proof positive for the shape of the brat in the 15th century. So we're going to have to explore that at more length.
Yes, definitely. Okay, we're going to have to race through this part, so I do apologize about this. We'll start covering more of the English influence, well, quote unquote English influences into
That's
the
French.
southeast of the part. Yeah, quote unquote English influences,
English
as some people say.
Oh my God, Philip's going to get terrorized by French people.
I know, right? What was it called? More of the kind of, to be safe, Southeast fashion inside of Ireland at the time. So we'll quickly run through this stuff that you sent me earlier. Some of this stuff I was actually seen in Waterford. What is it specifically I'm looking at here, Rachel?
Right,
I know
so that is an extant, that is an actual extant garment, not a reconstruction. It is the pourpoint of Charles de Blois. It dates to the 1360s. And it shows you how these fitted garments could have been made, like the ones we saw in that picture from the Bible of Ballymote, right? So what you see there is, this is a man's garment. It's padded, it's quilted, it's got those beautiful stuffed cloth buttons. That's silk. That's a silk lampus, is what you're seeing there. And Sartor, for those who want to buy a replica of that, Sartor makes a replica of that. It costs about 70 euros a meter. So this is what's called the grande assiette style sleeve, that big, massive, big arm's eye where it cuts in like almost to the center of the chest, right? But the magical thing about this tailoring is that it gives the wearer full range of motion. It's still super fitted. Look how beautifully fitted that is. And yet you can raise your arms straight up without tearing a single seam. You can't even do that in modern men's clothes, right? Right. So this style of arm's eye gives you a complete range of motion. And we see that same grande assiette arm's eye in the Moy gown, the woman's gown that has survived from that era. Her gown has this really super deep arm's eye in front and back. So this is again showing the connections between tailoring techniques from the continent, but probably delayed by 50 years, because the Moy gown, we're pretty certain, is a 15th century gown, whereas this is the pourpoint is a 1360 garment. So, this is how, if we have gaps in information we need to make these garments, specific tailoring techniques, specific stitching techniques, I still feel it's perfectly reasonable to look to the extant garments in places that were connected to Ireland directly to be able to fill in those blanks. So this is an example of a garment we might be using to fill in blanks as we encounter them, for instance.
Yeah, very excited. Apologize about this, guys. We just have to keep flying through, so I do apologize if we can't answer your questions.
The four mayors of Ireland, as I call them,
Oh,
right?
aye.
So these are the mayors of Waterford, Wexford, Limerick, and Cork. Yes. Okay.
Oh,
This is from the Waterford Rolls, and it is one of the rare examples of medieval Irish illuminated manuscript that has actually survived. It was made in Ireland, which is also nice, and it's illuminated, which is also nice. And it has depictions of the mayors. Now, this is the 1370s, so earlier than our time, but I still thought it was valuable to share it with everyone today.
of course.
So these are the mayors of those four great cities, right? And they are depicted wearing fashions that are both heavily influenced by the continent, by England, but also unique, because I haven't seen anything exactly like these from the second half of the 14th century on the continent. So we've got an example of a cloak there in the top left, right? And that cloak was absolutely fashionable in this era on the continent, with the buttons on the over the shoulder. So it's, it's got this really stylish, one arm is free and the other is covered. That's that Three Musketeers look, I think some people might call it, right? And then to the right on the top, he's got a full length gown that he's no doubt wearing over top of a coat, C-O-T-E. That coat we saw from Charles de Blois, the short one, that would be worn under something like this. Right. And it's, goes all the way to the ground, and it's got stylish dagging, and it's full enough that it actually has some pleating happening, and the belt around the waist creates that pleating. And you can see that pigeon chest, right? See how that chest is rounded, right? That rounded look is created by that coat, the C-O-T-E, the same style from Charles de Blois. And then the garment that goes over it just naturally takes that form. So, yeah. So I can't say that these colors are accurate in and of themselves, except that we have wills from 15th century Dublin that talk about red and blue garments. So we do know that these colors were used. I don't like to rely on the art 100% for that kind of detail. Yeah.
We'll keep flying.
Yep,
So
onward. Onward, man. Okay. Yeah. So that gentleman. Yeah. So this is also from, I'm pretty certain that's from the same roll. Yeah. This is also from the Waterford Rolls. And it depicts, an probably Anglo-Irish gentleman, right? And he is stylishly dressed in a fitted coat. He's got hosen on, and he's got that nice, sexy hip belt. And he's actually, oh no, wait, sorry. Now that I see the big picture, I think he might be wearing armor, maybe? That might be a pourpoint over top, or a jupon over top of armor, possibly. It's a little hard to tell, but either way, the silhouette is there. And we have a very interesting style of hat there, right? So this is all very 15th century. The question, were they really rocking out those pointed shoes? I have to know. Yes. Men, not women, generally were wearing those crazy pointed shoes. And there are actually sumptuary laws passed, not just in Ireland, but in England, regulating the English. And the people from wearing these, they're called krakows, those points. In French, they're called poulaines, right? And Edward IV, for instance, as part of that whole packet of sumptuary legislation he passes in the 1460s, not just for the Irish, he passes laws against which social class of men are allowed to have what kind of length of pikes. The other word is pikes in English. So he actually says that if you're under a certain income level and a certain rank, your pikes can't be longer than 2 inches. Right? So yeah, and we know that those pikes are stuffed, because we have some extant shoes that still have the stuffing in the tip from this era. They're stuffed with moss. They're either stuffed with moss or straw to fill out the points to make them full. So yeah, they were actually wearing them. There's a record also of a battle that takes place in Poland, I think, or Bohemia, where the knights actually have to use their swords to cut off their pikes because they're too long to actually fight effectively.
Oh.
Yeah. So yes, they were. That's a real thing. That is not an artist fantasy. Looks like he's wearing one of those crotch daggers. Yeah, he is. It's a bollocks dagger. You do what you do.
Going off for sure. I will. Oh, what did I do there? Oh, right. Sorry, that was a donation at the same time. Wayne, you're an absolute saint. Not messing around there. Pure character doing. For sure, Wayne. What was it called? I'll pop over to the next slide, will I?
Yep, do it. Do
Thank
it.
you so much for that again, Wayne, of that donation there of Australian dollars.
Oh yeah, thank you, Wayne.
Ooh.
Awesome. I'm sorry, it's showing up weird in my chat. I'm like, why is there weird role-playing language in my because
That's what I was
because it
thinking.
doesn't show me the character he posted, it describes it. Pair character doing a shaka sign with his hand saying cool.
Yeah. When Wayne's comment popped up there, I got terrified because we were talking about the dagger, and you said the key line there, and then I seen that pop up on cue from YouTube, and I was like, oh no, I don't think YouTube has just banned us, has it? And then it popped up Wayne's name, and I was like, jeez, thank God.
Right. So that is Charles VII of France, the King of France. That is a portrait of him. And as we're informing the shapes and textures of the kinds of garments you might like, Philip, your overgarment, this is a possible interpretation, of the garments that Edward IV may have sent over, or that Richard III, not Richard III, but maybe Edward IV would have sent over. So I included this picture because we don't have many contemporary pictures of English kings from this era, portraits, unfortunately, that actually show them in normal clothes and not their royal robes. So yeah, that's why I included that.
Nice. I'll hop over to the next one as we're now speed running through the game.
We're at the speed round, everyone. Okay, so this is Lord John Donne, and this is from the Donne triptych, which was painted by Hans Memling in Flanders. But Lord Donne and Lady Donne are English. They're English courtiers at the Burgundian court. And so this is contemporary to Edward IV and Richard III, specifically closer to Richard III sending over those garments you were talking about. So this, if you want to make the English garments that our boy Seamus would have had in his possession, this could well be a very good model for that. So what we have here, we have the white linen shirt underneath. Over top of that is that pink doublet, and it's laced with spiral lacing in the lower part, and then there's a big gap, and there's just a point at the very throat there with a nice sexy high collar. And then over top of that, he's wearing a gown, and that gown is black velvet, fully lined in possibly vair. Or it could also be ermine. There's a couple different kinds of weasel furs it could be, right? But what's neat about this gown is it's flexible, because if you see, there's a slit on the upper arm, right? So that slit through that sleeve, you can either wear it the way he's wearing it, putting your arm through the sleeve properly, or you could put your arms through that slit and then have those sleeves hanging jauntily by your sides and showing more of the pink of the doublet. So, and it's fully lined in fur, so it will have a nice body to it, and it will be warm. It will be warm. But the nice thing about fur linings in this era is that even though people are always depicted with their gowns fully lined in fur, we know from inventories and expense accounts and household management books about how to manage things like fur linings, that these fur linings were made to be removable. Now, not easily removable as in buttons and ties. No. They were designed so that they could be whip stitched into the inside of the garment when it was getting cold, and then relatively easily picked out, removed when it was getting warm again. So, the good thing about this one, if we made a gown like this and we don't yet have the funds for the fur lining, because the fur lining alone is going to be a big expense, we could make you a gown that's velvet lined in silk, which we knew they also have. And then if we happen to raise enough more money for, say, a fur lining, then we could add a fur lining in later.
Nice. Sounds like a great idea. Quickly racing through as quick as we can.
That is the earliest known extant portrait of Edward IV. Unfortunately, it dates to the 1520s. All the other
1920s.
portraits
Oh
of the
no.
Yorks seem to have been destroyed or died in a fire or were stolen in some rich person's house. We don't know.
Oh
Yeah, I
no.
know. So the details might be not quite 100% accurate. I'm always leery of
Mm,
posthumous portraits. But this
okay.
supposedly this is a copy of an original. Again, copies are not
Ah.
necessarily going to be 100% accurate, but we still have some details here that we know were correct. So for instance,
Mm,
he's got a doublet, he's got a shirt on. You can see the white collar picking up right there at his the nape of throat, the V of his neck, right? And then he has a doublet that has a red collar. It looks like it's velvet, maybe based on the texturing there, and it's sticking up, halfway up his neck. But because of how far open that collar is, we can tell that the doublet is also open in a V.
ah.
But what's happened is he's wearing what's called a stomacher.
Mm,
And what you remember what's happening in the 15th century? It's getting cold, right? Like
yes.
super cold everywhere.
Mm,
Yeah. So he's wearing a stomacher. And
mm,
that stomacher, those appear in expense inventories and accounts. James of Scotland has them. The women are wearing them too, because they're basically covering that gap in the doublet because it's getting cold.
mm, mm, mm.
And that is basically, it's like a V, usually made of velvet or some really nice rich fabric, and it's pinned on over top of the doublet. And then over top of that, he's got a cloth of gold gown. So what you're seeing there is cloth of gold. And when I say cloth of gold, I mean the gold is gold. The
Mm.
gold, the gold is actually gold. It is silk wrapped in gold foil, basically, and then woven. So it is gold.
Mm.
And it was the most expensive fabric, hands down. And so when our man Richard III sends Seamus that, or was it Edward IV who sent the cloth of gold? I'm
No,
trying to
it's
remember.
Richard. Richard.
Richard, right. Richard III sends our man a cloth of gold gown. That is crazy expensive. That is
Mm,
a, oh my God, luxury item, right?
mm,
But that cloth of gold gown could have well looked like this one.
mm,
And then of course you've got the pearls that are, over top of there with those beautiful pendants and those jewels. So the jaunty bonnet there with that lovely nouch pinned into it. And of course the stylish just past the ear, almost to the shoulders hair. So
mm, mm.
this is, if depending on, how Irish we want our Anglo-Irish outfit to be, or how English or continental we want it to be, we have some options.
Happy days. And just racing as quick as we can. I do apologize once again to all you guys. Ooh, how do we best put this in frame? It's a funny picture, isn't it? I'll put it here first, actually, so everyone can have a good
Oh,
gawk at
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is just a depiction of English fashions, basically from this era. There's not much in the way of English artwork that has
Okay.
survived from the 15th century depicting people. It's sad.
Mm,
But this is, once again, this shows you in full length the gown, the doublet, the hat, right? So you can get an idea of what the lower part of the gown looks like when you're not
mm.
kneeling. And our man there has decided to put his arms through the slits in the sleeve instead of putting them through the sleeve
Ah,
properly. So you can see how that effect would possibly look.
that
Yeah.
looks deadly, isn't it?
Isn't it sexy? Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. We were joking about this one last night, especially your man, well, the two lads up in the top there, how I'd have to do a whole load of squats to look good on that one because it's
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah,
We'll zoom in a wee
so
bit
this
each way.
this is from York. This is from
Mm.
York in about 1484. It's a guild statutes, actually.
Ah,
It's a set of guild
that's
statutes. So
brilliant because the
yeah,
Fitzgerald massive allies to the Yorkists at the time. Oh
yep.
ho.
And I'd like you to recall those archers we saw earlier, right? Remember the
Mm.
short things they were wearing? Look at our
Yeah,
man there on the top left,
yeah.
right? So, super short gown over top of his doublet and
Mm.
hosen. And he's actually wearing if you look closely at his feet in the top left, his heels are uncovered. He is wearing pattens. He is wearing chopines. Those are
Hmm.
slides, basically, that are worn so that he can go outside easily. And then when he goes inside, he just kicks them off.
Mm.
And
Nice.
probably his hosen have leather soles sewn into the bottom.
Yeah, which would be very handy for living out here in Japan if I was to ever wear the outfit, because then I could go in and out of the house
Right?
easy enough.
Exactly. Exactly. I
Yeah.
thought you might like that. Yeah. So yeah, so we've got, I just want, I put this one in specifically because it was from York, because it's a 1483 or 1484, and it
Mm.
connected visually to those archers.
It does, and it looks really, really awesome. Like if you're looking at, especially the outfit on the top, and then you look back at this outfit here, we could
Yeah.
easily play the two of them in
Yeah.
and make it look absolutely gorgeous. Which my brain is already thinking away, especially because everybody, if you look at the pants there, everybody's like, "Oh, that's tartan, that's tartan, that's tartan." And I know Rachel's about to go in her spiel about
I mean,
plaid and stuff.
it
Go on.
is a plaid. It is
Yeah.
what we call a plaid pattern, but it's not,
Mm.
it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
no meaning. It's just fabric. It's just
Well,
it's it's
from
got no meaning. It's just how you weave fabric. And it's not associated with any clan or anything like that. It's just a
oh,
stylish look.
yeah. 100%. But for myself, that absolutely loves. Like, I'm there thinking to myself, I can sneak in some plaid there for sure into
I
those
mean, yeah, it's
pants.
just it's no problem. It's just you have to acknowledge that it isn't any more traditional Irish than any other thing is in the 15th
Yes, that's
century.
very true.
Yeah, that's it.
For sure. We'll continue the race through the game right now. 1 second.
Yeah.
See if I can bring this. I think that might be best. Yeah, that one there.
Yeah, so
What are we
this
looking
is
at here?
this is actually from the Psalter of the Cathedral of the Holy Trinity, and
Ah,
in Dublin, and this is depicting a man who's supposed to be a fool. But what the reason I included this is a depiction of a shirt of Elena, actually, a 15th
mm.
century Elena, just
Oh,
the shirt, right? And so this can be a model that we can take for making your undershirt. Right. So we
yes.
can look at the details of this shirt and use that to make your linen undergarment, basically. That's why I
Mm.
included this one specifically.
Oh, brilliant. So we not only know, so now we know what in the 15th century compared to its 16th century counterpart, which everybody mixes up because they think of the
Yeah.
16th century Lena and they think of these big, massive Spanish, well, as we're calling it now, the
Yeah, the
Iberian
Spanish sleeves.
influences of
Yeah.
those big, massive sleeves. That's the one, yeah.
Yep.
We'll keep running through this.
Yep.
This is the next one. Let me zoom out a wee
Oh
bit.
yeah. So this is a depiction of an Irishman. Yeah. So
Oh,
this dates. It's hard to actually date this one,
mm,
but it's at least mid 15th century, and this is another picture of the gown, the houppelande, but in
mm,
the Irish style. So this gives us some other options when we go to settle on what it is you want to wear. What's interesting about this one is got the huge sleeves, which were very fashionable in Europe in the first half of the 15th century,
mhm.
but it wouldn't surprise me if they were still wearing them well into the
Ah,
latter part of the 15th century in Ireland. And it has that really nice high collar, right? So it's got this, very fitted collar, which would be very good for staying warm. And you can
mm,
see the buttons on his fitted coat that's underneath of that, reminding us of the Ballymote Noah, right?
it
With the
does.
buttons on their forearms.
Mm,
And it's got all those pleats, and his belt is worn around his hip level. And that hip level belt wearing is definitely sort of an earlier 15th century affectations, first half of the 15th century on the continent,
mm,
but could be later here. And he's a knight because he's got a belt and a sword. You can see the
mm.
pommel sticking out from the other side.
Oh yeah, I see it
Yeah.
now. I don't know if
Yeah.
everybody can see it at home and stuff. I wish I could zoom in, so I do
Yeah.
apologize. That setting is not in restream, and it frustrates me because there's so many
Yeah.
times as well where I see something and I'm like, I want to zoom in there so much. Okay, I have to apologize. Myself, and Rachel have to continue
Yeah.
running through this, so we'll
We
quickly.
do.
Oh, I think
And
that's. Oh, I think that's pretty much it.
yeah. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, this was just to show you how the layers actually go together when you have braids. So
Mm,
you've got, he's wearing, this is a working gentleman, so he's not a nobleman, but he's wearing braids, he's got a linen undershirt, and he's tying his hosen, which are separate, to his braids. And then over
mm,
top of that, he's just wearing a coat rather than a doublet, because this is not necessarily a nobleman, right? But
mm, mm,
yeah, so this is just to illustrate for people who are wondering about how hosen held up. Sometimes
mm.
they were tied directly to the brace. Sometimes they were tied to the doublet.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, I just have one picture left, which is basically the Bronze Age shoe. This is a
No,
shoe
not Bronze
he's.
Age. No,
Mm,
14th century.
So this one's from the 14th century because we
14th
do
century,
have
yeah.
yeah, because we
So
do have this design going back to the Bronze Age as well. Because I
sure.
remember Yuki points out this a good few times that this goes from the Bronze Age all the way up to around 1960. You have men still just slapping this on. It's a really easy design, like,
Yeah,
um,
this one, it's a bag shoe basically. This one is
yeah,
14th century. And so
okay,
I included it, and it's from the Irish part, the Gaelic part of Ireland.
mm,
So I included it because it is definitely different. They're not wearing this kind of shoe anymore
no,
anywhere else in Europe. This
mm,
is that they're still wearing it in Ireland is very interesting. But
yeah,
because it's just a bag, basically.
yeah,
It's like a piece of leather and you sew it at the top and you run a drawstring through the around the ankles so that it actually fits, around your foot, and that's it.
yeah.
It's a bag.
It's absolutely fascinating the history of this shoe. I can't remember specifically what they call it again, but you will see, but all the way up to, believe it or not, all the way up to the 1960s, you'd see farmers just literally, not sorry, farmers, fishermen, literally just getting leather, putting it around their foot, and literally
Yeah.
making this shoe here now. It literally, and then you get the leftover leather, and you can just tie it up at the back. Look how
Yep.
easy it is, and also tie it up in the back, tie it up in the front. Myself and Yuki actually made this. We literally got leather. When we were still in Ireland, we literally just slapped it on. When we first started reenactment, I got shoes. I got York shoes, but Yuki was like, "No, I'm making my own shoes." And because she knew of the Irish, this is how cute Yuki is. Yuki goes up to people and talks. So one day she got like bags of alcohol, and I was like, "Yuki, where'd you get those bags of alcohol from?" And she was like, "Oh, the farmer made it." And she's just gonna hold. This is what Yuki's like. But the local fisherman just showed her, like, "Oh, look, you can make your own shoes," and he just slapped that on together. So she learned off a fisherman how to just slap this thing on. Very, very, very. There we go. There's names there. Gallo glass. That's what they're called there, and that's what Yuki calls it as well. So you're bang on right there. Gallo glass. That's the name of them there. Pompities. That's what Yuki and the fisherman she was talking to used to call them. But um, absolutely, the history of them are absolutely amazing. Now, these days, you don't see too many fishermen doing it. There's one or two of them around the Kerry area that still know how to slap it together because of the tourism season and stuff. But most of the time, you see them just putting on runners and stuff. Old runners that you use for running around the place. So you don't see too many fishermen doing it. Just in the tourist spots, like in Kerry and stuff, you'd see them slapping on for the tourists and stuff, and that's how you could manage to pick it up. But yeah, absolutely amazing history. Okay, so that was amazing. I think we finished all the photos there. I don't think I forgot anything, Rachel. Did I?
No, no, I think that's it. And
I
this
think I
will
just
probably, depending on how the GoFundMe goes, this will not
yeah.
be the last presentation that we give. Oh yeah, so that's the final gentleman. This dates from about 1450, we think.
Oh, that's bang on.
Um, and it shows that the three people standing are not relevant. It's the gentleman sitting who's relevant, right?
Mm.
He's a real person. We think he's a tailor because he has shears hanging from his belt. And or weaver, sorry, he's a weaver. He's a weaver. He's got a heddle hanging from his belt, we think.
Mm.
And he is wearing a hood, a really big hood with clearly a
Oh
inserted gore in
no.
the front, right?
Mm.
He's got a nice belt. He's got a coat with buttons down the sleeves and down the front, just like the extant garment from Sligo, just like the depiction of the Ballymote Noah, and just like the depiction of the Irish bard in the Chronicon, right? And once again, we have a beautiful full curly beard and beautiful curly locks of hair,
And
right?
it's
So
it's
this,
so nice because, as you said, there it fits in with Sligo with the finds that we have up there of this one, and lovely this one as well. And it's going to be a massive influence on us as well because as I keep winding up Rachel, I like the pants to it because where's it gone? I had it in the scroll. Give us a second there. I apologize about this. I'm flying around like there's no tomorrow through this
his
presentation.
trews, you like his trews and his hosen. Yeah,
Yes, I do. I
you like
do.
his
I'm
trews
like,
and his hosen.
yeah, I want them so bad. Like, I love the whole outfit. Don't get me wrong. I love it, the whole outfit, and I could imagine Seamus easily having this outfit. But the top, it maybe will. I don't know what because I'll definitely some kind of influence there. Well, mostly what was it, what's it called, the old tartan influence for sure. I'd love to shove in there for the crack. But what else do we have in there? Is there like could we use this as the base, or will we use more of this sort of influence, or which way do you think will for
I
the
would, so because this one is in question, it's dating, I would definitely use ones that are more solidly dated to, oh, you mean visuals? No, well, that's something we'll have to discuss. Like what do you want to look? Because that's clearly 14th century. The images you've already, now those are very 14th century.
Oh,
So
this one,
if
sorry,
you,
I was just flying around.
oh, right. Okay.
Give us
Yeah.
a
So,
second.
I plan on using the Moy gown really heavily to inform a lot of the aspects of the fitted garments underneath. And, it depends on what you end up deciding on that you want for the whole outfit. So this is one of the big parts about making garments is that first you have to design it. You have to
Mm,
decide what it is you want. So now you have a lot of things to think about. You
yeah.
have to decide how much do you want it to be an outfit that Richard III would have sent, how much you want it to be that, or how much you want it to be something that a nobleman of his rank would have been wearing in the
Mm.
1470s or 1480s.
Because
Yeah.
this outfit and everything around this outfit is definitely up around the Sligo area, but it's also very exciting as well because, as we pointed out, like this one here, like it's literally a giveaway to what
I
was
mean,
like
so I
this
will
is,
tell you, oh yeah, that one's awesome. So I'll
yeah.
tell you the Sligo outfit, the dead man's clothes,
Mm,
that's middle class. I
mm,
can, that's definitely middle class. By the end of the 15th century in Ireland, it's very clearly that's more of a middle class look. The
mm,
fact that a weaver who's kneeling in a coat like that is not
yeah.
accidental. Whereas the gowns are definitely the fuller gowns with all of those pleats are definitely a more aristocratic look.
Mm, mm, mm. Because this one seems to be more of a giveaway that this is like there's a possibility that this could even be Seamus himself. I know there's good chance that it probably isn't, but do you
Oh,
think it's
that
in the
little guy?
realm?
Yeah, I mean, it could
Yeah.
be. Yeah. Oh, wait,
Mm.
which we're looking at the misery cord, our misery
Yeah.
cord buddy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
could be Seamus. Yeah.
Because this is one I was thinking is literally go off, see if we can just build around this outfit.
Yeah, we
Um,
absolutely.
yeah,
The hoopalond and doublet it's a good look. It's a good look.
yeah. And then for the pants, obviously shoving some tartan there. It's proper Scottish tartan, Rachel. I'm thinking about just going
Oh yeah,
completely
you
wild there.
definitely you need to find who your Scottish ancestors are and get to
Yes.
the right clan.
I'm literally right. Scottish ancestors that come on, give me money. This is good advertisement for you. Come on,
Oh my
I
God.
need that money. But yeah, I think for definitely 100%. Starting here, see, like how much of this top could we build up on? Do you know, that's what I'm thinking, and then
I mean,
from
it's
there,
easy because we have those other crypt or tomb frontals that show the scene where Christ is being buried, for instance, where he's being laid in the tomb by Joseph
there we
of
go.
Arimathea, right?
Mm.
That helps us figure out what the rest of it
Oh,
looks like or could
yeah.
look like,
Mm,
right? So we have the top there, and then we know basically that it's going to be a long garment,
mm,
right? It's going to be a nice long full garment. And that makes sense because, when you're an aristocrat, what better way to show that you're an aristocrat than to wear lots of expensive fabric?
mm.
I mean,
Because
and that's what the yellow, the big sleeved lena is in the 16th century. It's conspicuous consumption. It's just
mm,
another different layer being turned into big and voluminous. In
mm,
fact,
mm,
I could even argue possibly that is the lena with those big sleeves is possibly the less expensive version of the imitation of the hoopalond of the previous century with
mm.
its big sleeves and voluminous body. And, you know, maybe the lower classes could afford linen, definitely could afford linen more likely than they could afford wool to make into big, those big sleeve full bodied garments.
Yeah, because I'm thinking this is more of what the Fitzgeralds and O'Briens are wearing in this era compared to up in the Sligo area of the
Yeah.
O'Connors and the O'Connors and the O'Neills, that I think the
Yeah.
O'Briens and the Fitzgeralds are more, well, especially Seamus is more or less wearing this rather than what the likes of the O'Neills and the O'Connors are wearing. Because that's definitely more of the, if we jump over here, that's definitely more of the what was it called, O'Neill O'Connor dress, from my understanding of what we've been talking about. But then when we hop over to this outfit, and this is the outfit I'm looking to make, which is even
Right.
more exciting because I haven't seen anyone. I've seen reenactors and living historians bring this to life before, right? Which is, don't get me wrong, I'd love to have this outfit. I've seen reenactors do that before. I haven't seen reenactors bring this one to life before. So I'm more excited, to be honest with you, to bring this to life, you know?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited too. Hoopalons are nice. They're fun to make, and
Mm.
they look really. I think a man in a full length gown is just sexy. It just is. It's powerful. It's a man who's confident in his sexuality. I think they're fantastic, and I wish more 15th century reenactors would wear full length gowns like that. Yeah.
What am I signing up for? You make it sound too sexy. I'm like, huh? What was it called? Yeah, but I still love it anyway, regardless. So we might go for this one, and it's very exciting because it does seem to be the outfit during the period of the Wars of the Roses in Ireland that the likes of the O'Briens and the Fitzgeralds would have worn, and definitely grow the beard a wee bit more so we can fit in then. With this one, fly over here.
Yeah.
Oh, not this one,
Yeah.
not this
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
the other
More
one.
beard.
There we
Yeah.
go. So yeah, that's what we're going to go for. I think that's, yeah. So happy days. I think we kind of found our conclusion there. So we're not arguing at the end, which is a very, very good thing.
Yeah, Trump is Agent Orange compliments us. He says, "Thank you so much. You learned an exuberant amount of impactful knowledge. Appreciate the procured images. What a wonderful conversation. 4 years, 4 years. I thought the pointed shoes were just an exaggeration. Yeah, they're not. They are not. In fact, there was a time when they did actually chain the points up or tie the points up to their knees, basically. So that is not actually a fiction, believe it or not. I thought it was a fiction too. It's not. Yeah. Well, everyone, if you wish to support this project and wish to support Philip and I, and specifically me, in making these garments for Philip, doing more of the research, getting the research out there as we find it, we will be doing that if we raise enough funds. We've set up a GoFundMe. The current goal is $2,400 US. If we get more than that, then we'll have stretch goals, right? We'll have other things we can do. So yeah, we thank you all for joining us today. If you have any questions and we didn't answer them, then pop them in the comments and we will definitely get to them. And if you're watching this as a recording and you have questions, definitely pop them in the comments. Otherwise, I'd like to thank all of the people who support Philip and me, our patrons, our channel members. We do appreciate what it is you do for us, but unfortunately, my current level of membership and patronage is definitely not enough to fund this project. Not even close.
But so far, like the donation, well
members.
worth it. Thank you so much for that. And of course, everybody who's donated to us so far, thank you so much. That means so much more to us. And also, we're going to be hunting around for different sponsors and stuff as well, because this project is absolutely huge. I'm over in Ireland right now, which is a part of, sorry, I'm over in Japan. I'm over in Japan right now, which is seen as the very end of the Silk Road. One end is Ireland, the other end is Japan. I'm over in Japan at the very end of the Silk Road, and right now Ireland is trying to highlight its history within the Silk Road. And the Desmond Fitzgeralds, you can see that by the way they're dressing here. They're trying to connect themselves to Florentine, and then from Florentine into the bigger, wider Silk Road. So this outfit is very, very important in Irish history to highlight the connection from Ireland all the way to the very end of the world of Ireland. So I think we could definitely try to reach out and see if we can get sponsorship and more stuff to try to reach our goal of 2,800. So all the sponsorship you've given all the funding you've given us so far indicates and highlights the importance of getting this outfit done. So thank you so much for everybody who's donated so far. Other than that, guys, thank you so much. And is there anything else you'd like to add in there as well, Rachel, before I say so long?
No, No, that's it. Thank you all so much. And until next time, guys, stay creative. I think Philip and I both have a very busy weekend of live streaming ahead of us.
Yeah.
So if you've enjoyed this, like, subscribe, and click the notification bell for both of our channels so that you know when we go live.
Definitely. Tomorrow we'll be covering clans and dynasties. So definitely head over to my channel. That will be 9 o'clock Irish time. Not quite sure what time it'll be over in America. I think you were saying it's like 7 o'clock or
Seven,
something.
7 in New York. Yeah.
Mm. But
Yeah.
regardless, definitely head over to my channel. And also Creative Contessa will be popping in at her regular time to talk about medieval history. So I'll be starting off with Irish medieval history and then popping over to just medieval history in general. That'll be tomorrow. After that, Melissa Shields will be back on the channel again, and she'll be talking about 16th century Anglo-Irish clothing to continue this conversation that we had today. But no GoFundMe for that one. We'll be talking about the GoFundMe just for this outfit alone. Other than that, guys, thank you so much, and Slán go bhfuil.
Stay
Bye.
creative, guys. Bye.
Bye. Bye.